Hello. Hello, hello. So, I feel like a mess today. Kristen, thank you so much for checking on me. So, I came home, took a little nappy nap. I was on Cat's Live, watching closing arguments, but excuse me, she sounds like a man. Um, but I kind of wanted to do a little rewatch. Um, I work. I watched some of Atkins' closing arguments. Um, I'm not gonna lie to you. I really don't want to rewatch Atkins at all. Um, so we're gonna start at max. We are gonna watch it on 1.5 speed, and we're gonna go through Max Cross or Max closing arguments, Doug Weiss's closing arguments, and then Hilton sent Atkins and Hilton split their closing arguments. Thank you so much, Kristen. No, I do still feel bad, but I kind of just, I want to rewatch it. Big T says do it. Because I was like, yeah, should I just postpone it and do it later? Like maybe tomorrow when they're deliberating? And he's like, no, go ahead and do it. Um, well, and the biggest thing is, the jury may be gone a day. They may not. And so I really don't want to miss anything. I'll definitely be watching it tomorrow. Um, the plan is to go live if the jury comes back with a verdict. Even if it's just me and you, Kristen, in here watching it, girl. We will do it. um, but yeah. I know I feel thank you, boo thing. Thank you so very much. Um, I appreciate you. No, I had me some wonton soup. Cat donated to the wonton soup fund, so I had me some wonton soup and it was great. So my throat is just not my voice is just not all the way here. It's super, super, super cracky. But um um I wanted to, yeah. This is just me being stubborn and saying, I'm gonna do this because I'm a stubborn little butt. Um, Here we go. Let's add this to stage. I said I need to do this anyways because if not, I'm gonna start Christmas shopping. Like I already did some Christmas shopping. I'm gonna start really shopping, and I don't need to be shopping right now. So I need to be waiting to shop. I really want to do it Thursday and Friday. This is just as much a
Accusations
distraction for
are
me.
easy to make. Allegations are easy to wage. And this
Yes,
indictment has
he was
plenty
killing me.
of
I watched
warrants.
some of it when I was at work, so
But
I
here's the
went to
thing.
work. But then, yeah,
There's a big
my
difference
boss was like,
between
"No, you
making
can go ahead and go
allegations
home."
and proving them in court
Patients can
beyond a
barely hear
reasonable
you.
doubt to the citizens of Fulton County. It's a different matter entirely. The state has spent the past year with a hammer in their hand,
I know.
banging
That's my
on a square
problem.
peg
Amazon is doing
that
Black
they
Friday
call
already.
evidence. Banging, 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 trying so
Like,
hard to fit that
load it,
square peg into the round hole
load it, load
that they
it.
call their narrative, their theory.
And my daughters are
The
ready to
reality is
shop.
that square peg
They're
does
ready to
not fit in
go.
that round hole. It never fit. The state hasn't proven their case, and they certainly haven't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. In this indictment, the state accused Shannon Stillwell in count one of violating the Georgia, or conspiring to violate the Georgia RICO Act. He did not. They have not proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt. and I'm going to ask you to find Shannon Stillwell not guilty. In count 2, the state alleged that Shannon Stillwell on January 10, 2015, shot and killed Donovan Thomas. He did not. The state hasn't proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and I'm going to ask you to find Shannon Stillwell not guilty of count 2. In counts 49 through 54, the state has alleged that Shannon Stillwell on March 14, 2022, shot and killed Shamel Drinks. He did not. The state has not proven their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and I'm going to ask you to find Shannon Stillwell not guilty. Good morning. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I think I've made this abundantly clear over the past year. My name is Max Shard, and I represent Shannon Stillwell. But that's not the entire story. In fact, I have been joined by my co-counsel, Mr. David Botts, my wonderful legal assistant, Shaquille Kokomo, and it's been our honor to represent Mr. Shannon Stillwell throughout this process. And I'm excited for the opportunity to talk to all of you about the evidence that we have heard over this past year. But before we get started with that, I want to acknowledge you, the jurors. I want to acknowledge the immense time commitment that you have given this case. I want to acknowledge the sacrifice to your family, the sacrifice to your job, the sacrifice to your vacation plans. I want to acknowledge the patience that you have shown me and all the other attorneys. And I want to acknowledge the attention that you have shown this case. It's greatly appreciated. I acknowledge the fact that you have been paying close attention to this case. And for that reason, I'm going to try to avoid rehashing every piece of evidence. I'm going to try to be as direct and concise as possible to avoid unnecessarily taking up too much more of your time. Mr. Kokomo, if you could put page 3 up. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's just get into it, okay? Count 1, as the state discussed in their opening, Mr. Stillwell is charged with conspiracy to violate the Racketeer Influence and Corrupt Organization Act. And essentially, they're saying he conspired to acquire, maintain directly or indirectly an interest in and control of United States currency and other personal property through a pattern of racketeering activity. And while associated with an enterprise, did unlawfully conspire to conduct and participate in, directly and indirectly, such enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. It's a lot of words, that's a mouthful. And we're going to get to talking about what that means, what it doesn't mean, how it applies to the evidence that's been presented in this case. But before we even get there, I want to talk to you about a big part of the state's case in count 1, but also the other counts that they allege against my client. And that is the state's use of quote unquote expert witnesses, more specifically the gang investigators that they have called. Ms. Kokomo, if you could put on page 4.
Oh, thank you, Kristen. All right, I'll be paying attention.
Recall,
I ain't gonna lie to you. I kind of got cats chatting here in the background, but I wasn't really looking at it just now.
Investigator Underwood, Investigator Dennis, Investigator Gaither, and Investigator Viverito.
Speed them up.
Some of those people they've called multiple times. In and I want to talk to you about how to analyze their testimony and what your duties as jurors
really
are.
Why I stopped listening to Atkins. Let me just pause this.
Testimony of those witnesses.
This is why I really stopped listening to Atkins shirt, because he pissed me off because he played that part of the video or that call with Dolly and Kenneth Copeland when he was like, swear to God, we killed Nut. Like, he played that part of the call, but he played it like right when she was like, swear to God, we killed Nut. So they're going to stay on you. And then somebody else in the background says, they swear we killed him. Or, they swear we killed him, or they say we killed him, or whatever. And it kind of pissed me off because you're taking that out of context. You're not saying it right. You're not playing it right. You're not being transparent. Like, I talk like that. Like, she said, they swear to God we did something, so they're going to be on you because they think we did that. And instead, you guys are using that like it's a freaking confession. And Dolly wasn't confessing to that. She's just saying people are saying that we did this, and then that's why they're doing XYZ. And so, yeah. So that was a little frustrating for me. So I was like, I'm done listening to him because he doing the love thing, and this is pissing me off. So
experts.
I got Chart on 1.5.
You'll be given this jury instruction 130 about expert witnesses, and I'm going to focus on the second paragraph. It says, you are not required to accept the testimony of any witnesses, expert or otherwise. Testimony of an expert, like that of all witnesses, is to be given only such weight and credit as you think it is properly entitled to receive. So
I don't
And
like
Mr.
being
Adams
lied
talks
to
about
in my
this in his
face, and I don't like being
opening a little
played
bit.
on.
Expert
So
witnesses are just like
I
any
was
other
like,
witness, and you're going to be instructed on
plain,
how to
plain in
evaluate
my
the
face.
credibility of any witness, not just lay witnesses, but experts as well. And there's some factors that the honorable court is going to give you to consider in evaluating the credibility and evaluating how much weight to give these witnesses. Some of the factors are their manner of testifying, how they come across at the stand, how they act, their means and opportunity of knowing facts for which they testify, their interest or lack of interest in the outcome of the case. Are they biased? And their personal credibility as you observe it. Those are all factors you can consider when evaluating Investigator Gaither, Investigator Dennis, Investigator Viverito. So let's talk about the testimony and what we observed from the stand from these experts. I'd like to talk to you about the training. What did we learn about their training, all these experts? Well, we heard GGIA, Georgia Gang Investigators Association. We heard that a lot, about how there's 20 members. Remember, and we asked about what your training is, and they say, well, I go to the 2-day seminar every year. GGIA, there's 20 members. And then we learn who teaches at these seminars. Remember Detective Underwood? Remember Detective Underwood? And Detective Underwood was a nice lady, but she was sent up here on a fool's errand. They wanted her to testify about the intersection of gangs and music. And she clearly wasn't qualified. She knew almost nothing about music. But she said, yeah, I'm qualified because I think I did a 2-hour block a couple years ago on that. Okay. I think Viverito taught that class. Okay. So now Viverito is the teacher. So I asked her, I said, oh, very interesting. You took a 2-hour class a couple years ago in this subject, and that makes you an expert. Okay. Did you guys hear from any experts in Black history, Black art, any literature professors, anyone that has studied hip hop, anyone from the hip hop community, anyone from the community at large, when you guys all meet, the 20 of you, to talk about gang stuff at this seminar? Nope. They're just Investigator Viverito. Okay, what about scholarly reports? Nope, just Investigator Viverito. The more we ask these witnesses, these experts, about what their training is, what their background is, what their basis for testifying as experts and telling us how to analyze them, telling us what certain words mean, telling us what's gang related or not, telling us what's relevant and what's not. It all stems from these meetings, this echo chamber that they have, where they hear from no one else, no outside voices at all. And they all call each other experts. And they even created an association to look official. Talk about their manner of testimony, or testifying, excuse me. Think about Lieutenant Gaither when she was on the stand. Remember when I was allowed to ask questions? I tried to ask her some questions when they weren't vague. Did she really want to answer my questions? You know, you see on direct with the state, back and forth, it's like a tango. Yeah, it's a script. And then I get up, where another defense attorney gets up to ask questions. You can't get a simple answer for anything. What color is the sky? Oh, let me tell you about the FedEx video. Just commentary. Same thing with Investigator Viverito. Just unnecessary commentary. Avoiding answering questions that I ask. Clearly, Investigator Dennis was doing the same thing. He's out of here. He was sent home. Consider the manner that they testify and how much weight and credibility they really have in this matter. Think about their interest and lack of interest in the case, also known as their bias. Mr. Kokomo, would you put up Mr. Williams 70A? Remember this?
Chris, and I feel you, girl.
Remember Lieutenant Gaither getting up there? Oh, yeah, I saw that. This was important. This was a symbol of a gang war. This is the gang war that was going on. This is YSL declaring war on Bird Gang, which is an offshoot of the If Gang. Oh, yeah, that's what it is. She told you that. As sure as can be, the expert that y'all are supposed to rely on. Well, what did my good friend, Attorney Brian Steele, do? Brought in the album cover. Wait a second. You're saying that this is a Hawk Skull and a gang war? Isn't this an album
I was
cover
like
collaboration between
completely deceiving.
Young Thug,
So deceptive.
Young Thug and
What they did with that album
Future?
cover.
And isn't his label Free Bands? And isn't Future's Free Bands mascot an eagle? Isn't this album just signifying the collaboration between the eagle and the snake? Doesn't that make more sense? After all, that's exactly what the album is. Okay. Mr. Kokomo, can you put up 471 VB? Remember this? Let's go. That's not 471 VB. And actually, can you put up 471 VBA first? Okay, we saw that video, but first, actually, VB. Investigator Viverito brought this into evidence, said this was one of the social media posts that she pulled. Remember that? When she wrote no reports about pulling social media, we have no idea what she looked at, what she didn't. She just determines what's relevant. Not us, not you. You don't get to see that. She determines. Remember, this came into evidence. She said, of course, she didn't give us a date because she wrote no report, but she said she collected this shortly after the shooting of Chanel Drinks. I run with, what you saying? I run with cold-blooded killers, That's for Marvius Nichols. That looks pretty bad. Looks bad. Posted a day after this killing, and it's a post, and clearly that's what it says. No other explanation. And then what do we find out later? Could you put on 471 VB? Could you play it, Mr. Kokomo? We find out that this was part of a post, a story that had a bunch of different posts about fear of roller coasters, about being sick, a whole bunch of different things. And then we finally get to the part where it has the lyrics from Young Boy Never Broke Again, right? Let's watch. We don't even see these lyrics. Why don't we see them on this post? Because they're on for a millisecond in the very beginning of the switch. And we hear about Instagram and how those aren't really words that Mr. Nichols would have typed. Those are words from a song that he picked. And sometimes you pick the lyrics if you want, and sometimes Instagram picks them for you. But what else do we see from watching the entire post? Those weren't even the featured lyrics. The lyrics were being transitioned to the lyrics that either Instagram or Mr. Nichols picked. But in a split millisecond, for whatever reason, these lyrics that Investigator Viverito so desperately wanted you guys to see were on the screen. And so what did Investigator Viverito do? She gets the post. She goes frame by frame until it gets to that exact point where it has what she feels looks like incriminating words by Mr. Nichols. Words that weren't even picked by him. And she freezes it, and she screenshots it, and then she puts it in front of you. Again, no report about what she did. She manipulated the evidence. And she's caught. But what does that tell you about her? When we're talking about assessing credibility, your lack of interest in the case, your bias. Does she have an agenda when she does things like that? Of course she does. She's not a neutral witness. She might as well be sitting here. But I don't even think they would do that. Personal credibility as you observe it. Mr. Kokomo, can you put that other exhibit that you put up, the affidavit? .530 VV, this is the affidavit. Remember we learned about affidavits, and Investigator Viverito was looking into the assassination attempts that she was of Mr. Rashawn Bennett in the jail. And she wanted to search Jeffrey Williams' home, right? And so she had to fill out an affidavit to give it to a judge to get permission to convince the judge, basically, to give her permission to search Jeffrey Williams' home for evidence. So what did she do?
Lie.
She finds a conversation
Lie in it.
where Mr. Williams says, YSL rule the world, kid, 24 M's head.
You're not wrong.
And she molds it and makes
I
it
drank
bigger and circles it.
ginger and honey tea.
Because, of course, she wants the judge to feel that Mr. Williams is just ordering hits on people. That's the implication. That's the message she's sending the judge.
Tried to eat
and here I am.
breakfast sandwich. I couldn't even
Jeffrey
swallow
Williams 3 and Jeffrey Williams 4 that Mr. Steele brought in about the day before this
Doesn't
this
help
thread
him
about Bill Uzi Vert putting a $24 million diamond into his own forehead, and Jeffrey Williams thinking that's funny, and that conversation happening, and this having nothing to do with ordering hits on anyone. And here I am. I say, oh, let me confront Investigator Viverito with this. And what was my point, really? What should have happened? Oh, yeah, I misinterpreted that. You're right. And then I would have been Mr. Smart Lawyer and say, see, jurors, Investigator Viverito doesn't always know what she's talking about. She misinterpreted that. She's telling you what my client means when he says things, what other people mean when they say things. Investigator Viverito doesn't know. She makes mistakes. That's what I thought was going to happen. But what happened? Something far darker. Yeah. Investigator Viverito sat in that chair and said, she doubled down. And she said, you know what? Even knowing what I know now about 24M on N's head, even knowing what I know now, I would still put it in that affidavit. That's all I needed to hear. Yeah, I would mislead a judge. Yeah, I would lie in an affidavit. Yeah, I would cheat because I'm that invested in this case. I'm that invested with taking these guys down.
That part was unreal.
And if she's that invested in that, and the rest of these gang investigators are that invested, consider their credibility. Take what they say with a huge grain of salt. You don't have to believe what they say. You can disregard everything they say. The law allows you to do that. When they say, oh, this is a hybrid gang, and they can't even explain what that means or why it's classified as a hybrid gang, and it's just something that they come up with at their little private meetings every year at these 2-day seminars where they don't get input from anyone else. You don't have to buy that. It's not a hybrid gang. All right. Let's start talking about count one. Ms. Kokomo, if you could put
I just seen something
page 14 up for me.
Up there. They helped him.
I did not envy Mr. Atkins because this is very complicated.
Jurors determine the credibility of the witness. The state doesn't choose this witness. The state chose every witness that came up there, didn't they?
All elements.
I swear they did.
And all elements of this charge
I swear the state made those choices.
And I'm going to focus on two different
aspects. They put them on the witness list.
Relates to the case, it's RICO case, that one. The knowing and willfully conspired with one or more others to participate in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. So that's the first thing we're going to focus on. Whether it's been proven beyond a reasonable doubt that Shannon Stillwell knowingly and willfully conspired to participate in the enterprise through a pattern of racketeering activity. Knowingly and willfully. Not he was just there, not he just hangs around. Knowingly and willfully conspired. And then the second part that we're going to focus on a little bit later is number 6 and 7. That someone committed, or that the state has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that someone committed an overt act to further the criminal objective of this conspiracy.
I thought so too. So, remember, because Brian Still adopted all of their witnesses, plus he had his own.
Mr. Stillwell knowingly
they were on the list.
Inspired to
they did pick all their witnesses.
A pattern of racketeering activity. I think we have to look at this whole case in context. I think we have to consider the origin story of what everyone's calling YSL, whatever you want to call it. The state seems to suggest that a bunch of people all came together to commit crimes. Just a big conspiracy. We're all going to come together and we're going to be a racketeering organization. That's not the case. Now, let me be clear. Of course, crimes were committed. Crimes were committed by people with YSL tattoos on their face. Crimes were committed by people that use YSL emojis on social media. Crimes, I'm sure, were committed by people that use the word slap. But that's not the issue here. The issue is whether Shannon Stillwell knowingly and willfully conspired to be part of this RICO organization. We've heard from different young men, and again, we heard from them in the year 2024, talking about things that happened in 2012, 2013. So please keep in mind, when you see a 28-year-old testifying in 2024, we're talking about maybe a 16-year-old.
I believe that, Kristen. That's exactly what they're going to say. We had so much more to show you.
From Cleveland Avenue.
So much more we could have proved.
We heard
we had to
from
trim
Capitol Homes,
our case
because
it would have went on
forever.
forever.
We know that my client, Mr.
Trying to get you out of here before Thanksgiving.
We know that he was raised by his grandmother.
Really
his mother was never part of his life due to her drug addiction. We know about these communities, about poverty, about the lack of education. I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush. This does not apply to everyone in these communities. But as a whole, we know the struggles that these communities have had. Lack of education, underemployment, drug addiction, kids looking for food, sharing clothes with peers, hopelessness, a sad, tacit acceptance that it's either rap, prison, or death. That's the reality where a lot of these kids,
especially in Atlanta, unfortunately.
And the state, throughout the presentation of this case, has played several videos of people, of young people in parking lots, at parks. Some of them might have a gun, using foul language. Someone might be smoking marijuana. Some might be saying slap. A lot of times people are, and it's kind of sad to watch, a lot of people talking about all the stuff they got when we all know. They really
what on Cat's clip? The thing about the jury, I just happened to look up, like I said, I still have hers going. They spell Woody, W-O-O-D-I-E.
What's the point? Why is the state playing this?
Copley.
Just to show, like,
but I happen to look up and yes,
who they feel are bad kids, just to show who they feel are criminals. Like, what's the point of these videos that are really sad to watch? And then they play this video, and it's marked 54W, and I'm going to ask Ms. Kokomo to pull it up, but not play it yet. And it's a video where you see a group of people hanging out in the park, in a parking lot in the park, and you see Jeffrey Williams. Shannon Stillwell's not in this video. And you see Jeffrey Williams leaning on a car, and you see his emaciated body. You see his teeth that are rotten. He's wearing pants that are clearly too short, too small, clearly been handed down, traded. They didn't come out of Fitz Plaza. You see him wearing an Alabama Letterman jacket. And I'm not talking about like the cool Letterman jacket that you might get at Mitchell & Ness. That's where you get like high-price sporting goods, throwback stuff. Not cool like that. Like one that was probably made in the 80s. The Letterman the sleeves are all nasty. And the thing comes down to like his navel. And people are picking at him. Not in a harmful way, but picking at him, picking at his clothes. Go ahead, Ms. Kokomo.
Look, I'm about to say, man, that's all this way. Hold on, let me wipe it out. My nigga, just tell say he's white flag, right? So no, what time they let you folks see what you're doing. You check him out now.
What happens there? I think about when I was young. If I had to struggle, if I had to wear clothes that I was embarrassed about, if I was embarrassed about anything, I would hide. I would run. I would stay inside. I'd be ashamed. I might lash out at people. But what happens there? Jeffrey Williams takes those clothes, those tattered clothes, those old clothes, those fitted clothes.
Because it was like,
he turns it around.
I have to have it on my TV so I can get that.
This ain't nothing to be ashamed of.
You know, that minute.
This is white boy swag. This is swag. Think about that for a second. What that means. I'm not suggesting Shannon Stillwell saw that video, but that mindset. I'm not ashamed where I came from. In fact, I'm going to turn it into a positive. I'm going to turn it into a sense of pride. And lo and behold, what happens? Everyone starts wearing skinny jeans. Now think about if you're Walter Murphy. Think about if you're Trontavious Stevens in that Cleveland Avenue neighborhood. You're struggling. You're dealing with the same things that Jeffrey Williams is. And you're ashamed and you don't feel good about yourself. But then all of a sudden you see someone with confidence. Someone that's not ashamed. And all of a sudden, you know what else? They can rap. And people are starting to pay attention. And the shows start being booked. And 1 second it's around the corner. Next second it's up the street. And then all of a sudden it's downtown Atlanta. Think about the pride. If you have nothing and you see someone that you know making it and making it on his terms with that level of confidence. Now think about if you're Shannon Stillwell, raised by your grandmother, facing many of the same issues that Jeffrey's talking about, that he's rapping about, that these young men in Cleveland Avenue are facing. Many of the same challenges. And then you also want to be a rapper. And all of a sudden, this person that you can identify with, this person that has the confidence you wish you had, This person that's taking everything negative and turning it into a positive.
I hated Atkins
He
slideshow.
raps too. And it's all blowing up in your backyard.
I
And
hated
you want to be a musician. And you want to go into the studio.
so I
And you want
hated the
studio time.
slideshow
And you know
mainly
Jeffrey Williams and his
because
friends have studio time. Because now they have backing. And studio time
it was
ain't cheap.
all over
And
the
you want
place.
connections.
I felt like he did. It
And
wasn't a
you
single.
know he has connections.
I felt like it was
And
all
you know
over
those
the
connections
place.
paid off. B Slime. You know he's been on songs with B Slime. Vito, a songwriter for 300 Entertainment.
We knew their opening.
Dolly,
They wanted
Louis
a
Lee,
slideshow.
signed artist.
All throughout this trial,
Shannon's
they
been on
wanted a
songs with him.
slideshow. I knew it was going to be a
If
slideshow.
you're Shannon
at the
Stillwell,
end.
isn't that exactly where you'd want to
I
be?
feel like
Isn't that
kinda
exactly who you'd want to associate with? Not to
streamline the
conspire
ending.
to violate any
Slideshow
RICO
a little
laws.
better.
You want to be there because he's doing what you want to do, and you are identifying with him.
I feel like Atkins belabors the point a
What have
lot.
we learned about this quote unquote
Like
gang
in his mind,
that they're
he
saying
too is
exists?
now completely convinced
Detective Belt now,
that these
first time he
fellas
testified, talked
are
about
the
gangs
only ones
and
that could
talked
have
about written
criminalized
remote
Carter
myths.
Thomas. So
They
he
have a
will
solid hierarchy and
not
structure, strict rules, chain of command. You're
look at
beaten in.
any
You
other
can't get out. If you try to get out, you're beaten out. If you're false flagging, if you're claiming to be part of the gang and you're not, severe repercussions occur.
But
But what do you know
Boogeyman,
about YSL? This group of young men, many of whom are musicians, many of whom have known Jeffrey Williams since they were little,
he a mess.
who are thrilled for his
He's a
success.
mess. They a
We're living
mess.
through him.
It's a mess.
Well, there's no initiation, no dues, no money sharing at all, no rules or organizational structure, no hierarchy, no rules about false flagging. Anyone can do it. Everyone does do it. People all over the world wiping their nose. It's not false flagging because it's not a gang.
Yeah, it's negative 2205
When
from
LeBron
where it
James does it,
was.
he's not false flagging because there's no
I
gang.
was like
He's
literally
showing
at
he
negative
identifies
20.
with the movement. He identifies with the confidence that Jeffrey
Not
Williams
even kidding
chose.
you.
He identifies with turning
Negative
negative into positive.
23, 24 is
There's no
where I
gender
was.
rules in
I was
YSL.
almost there.
And there's no exclusions. You a swear? You're in. Sure. Whatever you want. You're a blood? Yeah, you
$25.
can hang out. You're a Crip? Yeah, you can hang out. You're not affiliated at all? Yeah, you can hang out. You're an athlete? Sure, you can hang out. You're a musician? Yeah, you can hang out. You a nerd? Yeah, you can hang out.
So we're gonna become,
No one
you
said
know,
anyone
we
went. It's not a
friends.
game. It's not exclusive.
$25. We there, girl.
The only people that say this is a gang
Be
are
at
those people that all
YSL. We
talk to each
give
other at
$25.
GGIA, the Georgia Gang Investigators Association, that don't want to hear from anyone else and just want to have their conclusions. Those people are also very biased in this case. So, has the state proven that Shannon Stillwell knowingly and willfully conspired to participate in an enterprise or pattern of racketeering activity? Well, Mr. Atkins says, well, he killed Donovan Thomas, so that's well, that's pretty circular logic. He didn't kill Donovan Thomas. Well, he killed Jamal Drinks. That's proof right there. No, he didn't kill Jamal Drinks. What have they proven Shannon Stillwell has done to say that he knowingly and willfully conspired to do anything other than to be around Jeffrey Williams and try to make music and further his rap career and be around people that he identified with? Okay. He's been
The way
in social media pictures
Atkins presents
many
stuff
people that he hangs out with.
reminds me of
Okay.
a classmate.
He uses the word slack. He uses
That,
a
like
green snake emoji.
one of those classmates
do
that's
that.
like
Posted. He spends time in
they're
the recording
subtle
studio
with
with other
it,
people
but they're kind of like the
that
teacher's pet.
know Jeffrey Williams. Yeah, of course he does. He makes rap videos and posts them
Like,
online. Yep.
if
Are
it
his
had
friends
not
in the videos?
been
Yep.
for Love, like
He uses hand
completely
signs for the
shooting
white
herself in the
nose.
foot
Yep.
throughout this whole trial,
Post
and
video. State
Whitaker
played one video in their closing about Shannon Stillwell calling out gang. Look at the bottom of
completely
that video. What's it say?
loathing
Shannon wants to be a rapper.
when she comes in and starts talking. He probably wouldn't have
This
got
ain't
the
got some ball
opportunity
It's
to
aggregated
present
throughout the
closing
internet. This is not coming off of
arguments.
Shannon's Instagram feed. This is national. Think about how many
But
eyes are seeing that. Someone that no one knows
we
calling
know
out on a
Whitaker
fight with a
loves
well-known rapper.
most
The game.
of the jurors
It's exactly
due to
what any music person, not necessarily a lawyer,
good reason.
I wouldn't tell Shannon to do that, but it's exactly what any music person would tell Shannon, who's trying to make it in the rap game. They would tell him to do exactly that. Get that doesn't mean he's knowingly and willfully conspiring. To be
I'm
part of
pretty
any
sure she was
illegal
doing closing
organization.
arguments.
Mr.
She
Copeland,
would
can you please
shut
bring
her
up
up.
page
She wouldn't
13?
have. There's no way that she would allow this to be split. She would have been like, "Nope, you better close it out
This
first
photo was put
time."
in by Attorney Steele. Who's going to tell LeBron that he's acting like a RICO conspirator? Who's going to tell LeBron
LeBron is a RICO
now a
conspirator.
hybrid gang member?
I mean, by their theory, that's true.
We just heard that the state said
Anybody who does
according
this,
to the gang experts. Who's going to tell LeBron that he's like ordering a hit in the middle of NBA warm-ups?
theater.
Does that make any sense?
I don't even know how to do the YSL
Is
side.
what the gang investigators say? Should we
I
really
don't know how
take
to do the YSL side, but
hook, line, and sinker? I suggest we should not. Okay, I'm going to move on to
I know how to do the blood
The
sign just because my brother
states that have to
was,
prove the commission of an overt act in
gang.
furtherance of a criminal objective.
That one
And
was
mind
the
you,
one he was
they
in.
have to prove all of these elements.
And I know how to
without
do
doubt.
the one where
So
you
it's not
spell
like
it
I can
out.
show everyone did not happen. These elements all have to be proven by the
But
state. Okay, and a reminder: this isn't just about people committing crime, because I'm just going to sit here and tell you, there's no doubt that people that
Yes.
are in social media posts that are in evidence in this case, no doubt
Yes.
that people with YSL tattoos, there's no doubt that people that say slat have committed crimes.
Yes.
No one's disputing that.
Yes.
Isolated
Oh, I
crimes
love the
by
doggy. Oh,
an individual or a group of individuals that have nothing
yes,
to do
her
with any alleged
her
conspiracy
talking just
cannot be overacts.
just gives me
It's not just crimes that, or other acts
just
that are
thinking
alleged
about
against
it.
people associated with YSL. The acts must further the criminal objectives of the alleged conspiracy. So
It drives me
what do they
bonkers.
focus on? They focus on, first of all, oddly artistic expression. Jeffrey's lyrics, like we're just going to pretend
I need to
there's not a
make a
thing
hot
called
toddy. That's
rap
what
music.
I
We're
mean.
going to pretend there's not a thing called artistic license. We're going to
Right,
pretend there's not a thing called
right.
YSL, the record label. And when Jeffrey says slat in a song or slime in a song, which is recognized worldwide and is popular and sells albums, we're going to pretend that there's no context to this, and we're just going to pretend that all these lyrics are somehow designed to further a RICO organization. That's absurd. We're going to pretend Shannon Stillwell's statements about bragging about beating a murder rap, which is good for his music career, is somehow furthering some objectives of some conspiracy. That's absurd. They list in their list of overt acts a bunch of social media posts of people with tattoos on their face. Nothing else. Just took a picture with a tattoo on his face, or wearing slime clothing, or Make America Slime Again clothing. Clothing created, mind you, by Miles Farley.
It's kind of like
the person who was able to again turn
I
negative into
remember in
positive,
the
and
second
turn that
grade,
movement that was going on in Cleveland
I
Avenue in
practiced
a way for
really
him to
hard
make
just
money.
to be able to do
He was
this.
selling clothing for him
It
to
was
provide for his family. Turns out
Star
Miles
Trek.
Farley didn't subscribe
I practiced to teach
your
myself
options
how to
are
do that.
athlete, entertainer, dead, or jail. He
Uh,
decided to design clothes. And what's his reward? You're part of a
And then
conspiracy.
I think in 8th grade, I was part of a
What
girl
does the
group.
state say with these overt
Made
acts?
up our own
Well, they
little
listed a lot
girl
of
group.
petty drug selling. We heard from Trontavia Stevens. I don't know if you
It
remember,
was
but
too
it was a long
cute.
time ago, I know.
So
But he talked
we
about
had
being
the
pulled over.
T
And I made
and
sure
the
to ask him.
C.
He wasn't
It
denying
was
that he had
too
a bag of
cute.
weed on him. I said, hey, man, who went in on you with you on that bag of weed?
Just imagine
I
somebody
bought
would
it.
have committed a
Okay, yeah,
crime.
but when you sold it and made a profit, who are you going to share the money with? He looked at me like I was crazy. Man, this is a $100 bag of weed. I ain't sharing money with anyone. I'm a drug dealer. I buy drugs and I sell drugs and I make a profit and I keep the profit. What evidence have we seen at all that any of this petty drug dealing had anything to do with furthering some criminal enterprise? Isolated
Nothing.
acts. They list gun possession. 2019, they say
Nothing.
Shannon Stillwell was in possession of a gun in furtherance of the criminal objectives of the conspiracy.
Why? If they
And
wanted to prove that, did they not
we have heard
trace
ever since
money?
Shannon Stillwell was falsely accused
Why
of killing
not
Donovan Thomas
trace
in
money?
2015 about people shooting at his head, people shooting at the car he's in. People are trying to kill him.
If people
And you
were
think he's possessing a gun as some
guilty
furtherance of some conspiracy? Does that make any sense? He's trying to survive.
of the money, why not trace
The murder of
money?
Jamari Holmes. Tragic event. Horrible. Complete waste of 3 lives. Jamari Holmes,
17
Rebellious
years.
Ryan, and Mr.
You're
Blaylock.
such
3
a
teenagers,
cutie.
senselessly, all
My
lose their lives to varying degrees. Jamari
condolences
Holmes obviously
to you,
loses his life
Kristen.
in the most real sense. Absolute tragedy. No one's going to say otherwise.
It's such
This
a
is an
cute
overact
baby.
in furtherance of furtherance of the criminal objectives of the alleged conspiracy. It was like a 15-year-old doing something incredibly stupid. What objectives was that furthering? It wasn't. It's an isolated act committed by someone who screams out YSL and screams out SLAP. But that doesn't mean it's furthering any conspiracy. We hear about Jaden Myrick. Who the heck is Jaden Myrick? I know they put him on this
I can
indictment
totally
to try to
see
say, oh yeah,
that.
he's a co-conspirator in this too. But they're the ones that put his name on this indictment. What have we heard about Jaden Myrick? We ever hear about Jaden Myrick ever meeting Shannon Stillwell? Do we have any indication that Jaden Myrick knows Shannon Stillwell? What about Jeffrey Williams? Any indication that Jaden Myrick knows Jeffrey Williams? Who the heck's Jaden Myrick? But some dope in the jail that's looking to make money by doing something incredibly stupid and attacking Rashawn Bennett. So he calls another dope, and they come up with their own little plan, but it has nothing to do with some broad conspiracy.
I like
Shannon
how you
Stillwell
call
will
them all
play and knowingly
dope.
join. We heard about jail calls. They're all listed as overt acts. Cordelius Dorsey calling Antonio Sumlin. Hey, I want you to attack some guy named Victor Meadows. I think his name was. I can't even remember the guy's name. Had nothing to do with this case.
Why
And
doesn't?
Antonio Sumlin's like, what?
I
And he's like,
call him
okay,
my
man.
brother
And he hangs up the phone and doesn't do anything about it ever again.
he was
That
in that
furthering a
aunt
conspiracy?
with a single
And
parent,
this is the coup de grace.
and
Christian Eppinger has an armed robbery arrest warrant out for him. And
I think it was
the
about
police jump out on him, unmarked police, and say, get down, boy.
his
And he
middle,
has a gun. And he gets into an
middle
officer
school
and
was
shoots.
split.
And runs. And then
Sixth
another
grade
officer shoots
center
him
and
and
then
shoots back,
seventh grade,
and he
eighth
continues to
grade.
run. Somehow
And
the
then when he
state
got
is
to
alleging that Christian Eppinger, no one else is there. No one's saying, hey, Christian Eppinger
grade
did this for
center, he was
YSL.
there with my sister,
Christian
my
Eppinger trying
older
to
sister.
avoid arrest, trying to stay free, completely
The
isolated
boy
from
she
anything
had
else
a
going on in this
crush
case.
on was his brothers and
Somehow
stuff was in the gang, and
Christian
he
Eppinger
of
doing
course
that
claimed it by
idiotic,
affiliation.
making an idiotic decision to shoot an officer to avoid being arrested.
The,
Somehow that is in
my
furtherance of some
cousin,
conspiracy that
the
Shannon
boy
Stillwell
got
is
into
knowingly
it
joined.
over a girl,
Doesn't make any sense.
and then my sister was fighting with him too. Like she
In
was
review
on the
count
side
one,
of my cousin.
ladies and gentlemen. YSL is many things.
And then
It's not a gang.
my
Full-fledged
cousin and the
hybrid.
other boy,
It's
they
certainly not a
became
retail
friends over
enterprise.
time. And then my
Shannon
brother
Stillwell
ended up,
and
he actually
associating
got
himself
jumped
with
in.
Jeffrey Williams and Trontavious Stevens and Quamarvius Nichols,
I
Mr.
remember
Friend,
seeing him
and Miles Farley and others, and Mooney Lee.
with a messed up hand.
He wasn't knowingly
His
and
face,
willfully
he had
conspiring with
bruises and
anyone to
stuff, but
participate in
he
any
actually got jumped in the
enterprise
game.
aimed at a pattern of racketeering activity. He was in the mix. He was trying to make music.
Part of it
He
for
was
a long
also,
time.
coincidentally, if we're being
He
honest,
got in trouble.
he was selling
of course.
drugs. He wasn't sharing with anyone. He wasn't sharing the profits. He was
Went
selling
to
drugs
prison.
and trying to make music. And he was around the right people to be trying
Took
to do that with,
charges for
because
older
those
people
connections
in
were
the
going to,
gang.
in his mind, further his music career, which is what he wanted. And no
But
overt acts
me and my
were
sisters, we were
ever
kind of
committed
like,
in furtherance of any conspiracy that Shannon Stillwell knowingly and willfully joined. The state has to prove every
our
element
dad
of
didn't
that
allow us
charge
to do much.
beyond a reasonable doubt.
We were
They have failed.
very
It
old,
is reasonable doubt. It's not
didn't let us
true.
out the house,
And your verdict on count one
really.
must be not guilty.
And so,
Let's talk about count two. Just a couple more if you would. Pull up
close
page 21.
association, we would be like, oh, can we go over his house and
Actually, don't need to.
help Amy
Count two
cook? And da, da,
is
da.
the charge
And
from January 10th,
before my
2022,
dad
murder
found
of
out
Dalton
that there
Thomas.
were
Okay?
gang
But
members
before
over there, he
we
was
start talking about
allowed.
the evidence in the
But
case, and we will,
after he found out,
let's talk about music. Okay? We know that Shannon was working on music. I think we
but
made that clear through his phone, through the fact
you
that he
know,
was always at the studio, through the fact that he had songs on his phone, multiple songs.
for
Some we heard, some we
anybody
haven't heard.
growing up,
Clearly, that's what he's doing in life. We've also heard
unless
from
your
drill music.
family
We
is
heard from Investigative DeVito.
independently
We heard from
wealthy,
Antonio
you have
Sumlin.
to
We heard from
have
other
some
people.
street
We heard about the
smarts,
common themes of
some
drill
book
music, things that make you
smarts,
marketable in
some
that
world
space.
smarts.
Okay? Violence, confrontation, having bodies, homicide, guns, more guns, bigger guns, being the toughest, being the baddest, not being scared,
So you have,
being a danger. Okay? And I'm not asking any of you to like that. I'm not suggesting I like that. Detective Underwood, she clearly didn't like it, and I'm not saying she's wrong. But it is what it is. That type of music exists. That type of music is
I
popular.
mean,
And
just
that's the
like
type
you
of
said,
music
Dennis,
that
like
Shannon
you said,
Stillwell was
well,
doing.
all the way I
We heard
grew
about the
up,
common
things I
terms
seen
in
when I was
drill music,
growing up,
pops, glizzy,
having
blicky,
knowledge
red
of
light.
just watching Boys in the
And we
Hood.
heard
You know, I watch Boys in
5
the Hood. I
Shannon
watch
songs.
Minister
We heard Slap
Society. I
Talk,
watch
Lizard Walk,
Chakas.
Red Light, featuring
Uh,
D-Slime and Vito.
but
Full,
also, I didn't
S-H-I-T, with
experience
Dolly,
some
Jeffrey's
stuff.
sister,
I didn't
and ran this money with Slime Life Shorty,
experience
a
shootouts.
signed
I
artist
didn't been in a
who had
house
already made it,
party,
at least to a certain
as a
degree.
teenager, and
And in those
somebody
songs,
kicked in the door. He started
I
shooting,
agree.
and
We
I
hear
happened to
about all
drag
sorts
my
of violence. We
sisters
hear
out
about
the
red
back
lights. We
door,
hear about
jump in the
glizzies,
car, and
walking
speed
down,
off.
homicides, F-ends. We hear it all. And out of context, it doesn't paint Shannon
I've
Stillwell
been
in
at
that
the
light.
club and shots
And
rang
I don't
out.
think I've ever claimed that Shannon Stillwell was an angel either. But it is art.
Most people
And when
have
he
some type of
references beating a
street
homicide,
smarts. It's the
when he
fact that
references
they
beating a murder rap, when he keeps
prosecution
bringing
keeps
up Donovan
tying
Thomas,
all of
it's
that
not a confession. That's how he's known. That's what he's known for.
to
That's his
guilt.
selling point in this type of music that celebrates it, much to some of our chagrin.
Just
This
crazy.
is what it is. We saw a post that Shannon Stillwell made on January 27, 2022. On page 24, Mr. Kokomo.
I can show y'all crazy posts of me. When Halloween I dressed
This
up
is
as Nicki Minaj. We got into a
this
whole
is the untranslated version, but I'm not hiding from
years
it. The
ago.
translated version says peanut stone.
But Lord, me and my sisters on
But what
there
does it say?
talking crazy. We could all been
I fell off
convicted of
100
crime.
times.
Been in
100 times,
jail.
I bounced back. Life size. Hashtag life size lizard. Lizard. What are you grabbing under? Lizard walk. Okay.
I'm
This is Manny
on my
Pingo,
light.
APH.
It's getting dark here.
What's he talking about here? Fell off 100 times. Why does he keep referencing Donovan Thomas? Years later, he's already been arrested for this charge. Wouldn't he be quiet about it? He would if he did it. But why does he keep bringing up Donovan Thomas? Well, I have two things for you to consider. First, maybe, just maybe, on that particular day in June of 2022, Shannon Stillwell had enough. For 7 years, the police put a target on his back, and people had been shooting at him. He was shot at the Green Store. They shot at his head.
I think they left that out
He
of
was
the
so
closing
bold,
because it was
so
in
bold, to go to
2013.
JJ's Chicken and Fish to get himself some food
Even if
with
it
the
is
mother
an
of his child
overact, it's
and
outside
another
of
female
that
who was
time
driving. He
frame.
was so bold to do that, that when they left that parking lot, 3 men in a car sped up
He
behind him
did it.
and
None
shot
of the people who
at
did
that
that is
car,
actually
riddling the back of that car with bullets,
Yak.
shooting poor Tierra Jones
Nor
in the face,
Shannon.
instantly killing the driver, Miss Jones,
So,
causing the
I don't
car
think they
to
even really
careen
care
and turn
about that
over and
one.
over and over, severely injuring Mr. Stillwell,
Crispy.
scarring his head to this day, putting him in the hospital for months, putting the mother of his child in the hospital for months.
I'm
And then, when the police come to talk to Mr. Stillwell,
gonna start
you know what he
the
does? He feels bad about the situation. He feels awful. He
As
asks
a
the officer, can I
GGIA
write a letter of remorse to
YouTube
Tierra
IA
Jones' family? And he does.
YouTube expert,
And then the officer says, well, can you talk to me about the case? You know what he does? He talks to the officer.
YouTube Association
He
of
gives names. He gives
Experts.
names of the people that he feels were in that car, that red car that sped
That's
up
what we're
behind him,
gonna
tried to
become.
kill him and kill Tierra Jones. He gave up those names. And what was his reward? Page 26. Just spoke my
We can review cases and give
He was
our
investigating
expert
Rickles.
opinions
He was
on
the
them.
investigator that was investigating the case. What did he tell you? the discovery got out. It was posted online. And the fact that Shannon Stillwell had dared talk to the police to try to help solve the
just as
senseless
much of an
murder
expert as
of an
me.
innocent woman was broadcast on Instagram and social media. And people were chastising Shannon Stillwell and coming at him on social media and in real life over the fact that he made such a ridiculous decision as to try to bring justice to Tierra Jones. That was his reward for that. So yeah, people shooting at his head, narrowly missing at the Green Store. People shooting at him in a car, killing someone in the car and putting him in a hospital. People chastising him online for being so bold to tell the police what happened, who killed Tierra Jones, poor Tierra Jones. So yeah, maybe in January 2022, just maybe, possibly, he had enough. He was sick of the nonsense. If you want to say it, then I'll be it. You keep putting me down 100 times, you're making me fall, and I keep getting back up. And what's the origin story of it all? The death of Donovan Thomas. That's how it started. It doesn't mean he did it. That's how it started. That's why he has that target on his back. There's another possibility as well. Mr. Stillwell is just a kid who was raised by his grandmother in Thomasville. Nothing more, nothing less. But all of a sudden, he was known as a tough guy behind this. Wasn't true, but that was the public perception. That was the persona that was thrust on him.
Hey,
and maybe,
however,
while he was sick of being shot at,
if they go
sick of being
to that
chastised,
jury
sick of being
room
threatened,
and they
maybe
don't
also
deliberate, if they go
a
to the
calculation was made, you know what?
bathroom, if they
If
sit
they're
in
going
the
to keep shooting
corner,
at me,
they
I
sip
might as well lean into this a little
coffee,
bit.
they don't deliberate,
That does have
then
traction in the streets. That does
they're
have traction in
guilty.
the music industry. Maybe that's why he's
I'm not
hashtagging
taking this
his rap
case
name in
seriously.
posts. The bottom line is, yes, I acknowledge
What is this?
he's referencing Donovan Thomas in songs. He's not giving any inside information in these songs that wasn't publicly known. Remember, he had been arrested. He did it prelims. He knows what the case is about. He's heard testimony about the case by the time he's making this song. So he's not sharing any information that only the killer would know. Of course he's not, because he's not the killer. But maybe he is leaning into the bad boy image a little bit. But here's the thing. You might like my explanation or not. But could you put on 27, please? So let's just think. If songs were confessions, what would that really mean? Could you put on 28? Remember that song, Homicide by Lil Woody, Kenneth Copeland? Who played the role of the assassin? Brett, Trevante Turner. You watch the video.
Fulton County needs a complete overhaul.
Who gets killed?
For
Someone who
sure.
looks like Donovan Thomas. Who put money on his head?
But Fonny's in there
Kenneth
for
Copeland.
another 4 years, so
If
not
songs are
anytime
confessions,
soon.
then Kenneth Copeland is confessed. He hasn't been charged. He's not sitting here on this indictment. So maybe songs are just songs. And posts.
I'm
are just
happy he
posts.
broke out that video and put the pictures
So
in.
let's talk about
video.
Donovan Thomas and some of the evidence in this case. Eyewitnesses. Who did we hear from? We heard from Reginald Hendricks. He was a
I didn't
gentleman that
really
was
want
shot
him to play that
standing near
video.
Donovan Thomas. He didn't identify anyone. We heard from two witnesses, two people that were in the barbershop, working in the barbershop. They heard shots. They ducked. They described what happened afterwards. No one identified anyone out of those two witnesses. We heard from a man named Sammy Davis, an older gentleman who lived across the street, who knew Donovan Thomas. They called him Car Wash. He watched Donovan Thomas's car. He didn't see anyone in the car. That was his testimony.
He did. He
Then
said
we
he
heard,
saw
we
Woody.
didn't hear from, but we heard about someone
I
named
think
Spencer Wright.
Max Chef forgot
Actually,
about that.
We heard about someone named Nicholas Robinson. What did we hear about
He
Nicholas
said he saw
Robinson?
Woody.
Investigator Thorpe talked about it, and definitely District Attorney Sprinkle talked about this as well. What did we hear about Nicholas Robinson? We heard about Nicholas Robinson in September of 2015. He was being arrested for felony theft and a probation matter. And when he's being arrested, and when I say he's being arrested by the Atlanta Police Department by an officer, and he's hours away from having, what I like to talk about, the Fulton County Blues. He's hours away from having that blue jumpsuit on, right? And what did we learn that Nicholas Robinson did? He said, "Oh, you guys arrested me. I want to go talk to a detective about a case." So they take him to Thorpe. He wanted to talk to him about the Donovan Thomas homicide. They take him to Thorpe, and Thorpe starts to interview him. Okay, and Nicholas Robinson claims he's at the scene and starts talking to Investigator Thorpe about what he saw. And that would be hearsay to talk about because he didn't testify. But we also heard that in the middle of that interview, Lieutenant Gaither was there. She's doing research into the background of this Nicholas Robinson. What does Lieutenant Gaither realize? Wait a second. This man who's saying his name is Nicholas Robinson, this man is telling Detective Thorpe his name is Nicholas Robinson, his name is actually Spencer Wright. So she goes and tells Thorpe. And what does Thorpe do? He's interviewing someone about what they allegedly saw in this high-profile case, and this person has just lied to him about his name. What does Thorpe do? He continues to interview him. And then the very next day, he goes out and takes warrants on 4 people, including my client. Then we hear about DA Sprinkle taking over this case and the investigation in early 2016, and him seeing this mention of this Nicholas Robinson, who was really Spencer Wright, and where he said he was when he witnessed events. And we hear about DA Sprinkle getting the surveillance and checking into it and talking to Spencer Wright. Where did you say you were? On what bench? Where? Circle it on his picture. And about how he went to look at the surveillance himself. And what did he see? An empty bench. Spencer Wright not only lied about his name, but he lied about a lot more. But know who he duped? Detective Thorpe. We're going to get back to Spencer Wright in a minute.
He did.
We have no ballistics from the Donovan Thomas case.
Squirrel
No DNA
brain.
or fingerprints. We have an infinity car, which we will talk about in a minute.
Squirrel brain.
But essentially, this Donovan Thomas case comes down to two witnesses. And in my opening, I warned you all about people wearing the Fulton County Blues. That was the theme of my opening. Because as it's played out, it turns out Rice Street is a disgusting, horrible place. Being locked up.
I know.
And there are.
I'm so nervous
for on other people to stay out of Rice Street. You don't believe me?
When it goes to the jury.
Nicholas Robinson.
I mean, of course, we wanted them to deliberate.
Getting locked up, wants to talk to the detective.
Least guard, but
and the next day,
how are they going to come back with it? Because there's so much evidence.
Not some theory that I have that people lie to get themselves out of trouble. It's proven. Spencer Wright did it.
So much evidence.
He's not the only one who did it. So the state has these two witnesses, Quindarius Zachary and Kenneth Copeland. Those are the two witnesses. And I've been doing this long enough. They're horrible witnesses. They're liars. They have every reason to lie. They have every motivation to lie. They are inconsistent. They tell different stories every time they talk about the things they talk about. The state knows they're horrible witnesses. But here's what happens. In closing, the state says, they're not our witnesses. We didn't choose those witnesses. They're Shannon Stillwell's friends. He chose those witnesses. That's their line. They might not use it now because I already said it. But that's their line. But let's think about that for a second.
That is what she said.
That's not
we
their
didn't use those witnesses.
They're the ones that called them to the stand. But that's not their witnesses.
But you did.
Look at this indictment. 28 names. Quindarius Zachary? Is he on this indictment? Nope. Kenneth Copeland? Is he on this indictment?
Nope.
Are any of us going to really sit here and pretend that if the state was really being honest about who to charge about the events in 2015, 2014, 2015, that Kenneth Copeland wouldn't be on that indictment? Kenneth Copeland was a one-man crime wave in 2014, 2015. Yet he's not on this indictment. Quindarius Zachary was a straw purchaser for guns. Quindarius Zachary was right in the middle, the impetus for one of the overt acts, the April 28th, 2015 shooting of houses. He's right in the middle of this. And they're not on the indictment? And we're supposed to pretend that the state aren't the ones that chose Kenneth Copeland and Quindarius Zachary as their witnesses? Of course they did. Of course they did. And why did they choose them? What are the qualifications that Kenneth Copeland and Quindarius Zachary both had when it really comes down to it? They're two people that are willing to lie on others to get themselves out of trouble. That was one qualification that they had. And two, they are two people that happen to put themselves in situations, serious situations, that would require them to lie on others to get themselves out of trouble. Those were their two qualifications. And the state said, sounds good. We'll sign you up. You're our witnesses. You're no longer on this indictment. Let's talk about Kenneth Copeland's credibility. So use the same test you do for those quote-unquote expert witnesses. What's his bias, his motive? How's he come across on the stand? What are his motivations? Well, we know he really hates jail. That was clear. I submit to you that it seems that not only does he hate jail, but he almost has a mental disorder about, he literally said, I'd rather die than go to Rice Street. That's extreme.
He did.
He's told us, I would do anything to stay out of jail. I would lie on anyone to get myself out of trouble. He has his own term for what he does, the finesse. He really hates jail. What else do we know about Kenneth Copeland? Well, we know about, I'm going to ask y'all to think back and remember this when he was on the stand. A case, 21 CP 197618, State of Georgia versus Kenneth Copeland. Remember that? When he was actually in jail and he picked up another charge because he claimed that a jail worker attacked him and sprayed him with OC spray for no good cause. And he brought charges or tried to bring charges against this poor jail worker. What do we know? The surveillance from the jail was pulled. The investigators looked at it, as they should. Even Kenneth Copeland, a known liar, when he makes allegations against the police, yes, it should be looked into. And it was.
Yeah.
And what did they find? No OC spray was admitted. In fact, the officer that was accused didn't even have OC spray on them at the time. So what happened to Kenneth Copeland in that case? Well, he was charged with false statement and false report of a crime. 2 felonies. So as a result of his lie, he gets charged with these 2 felonies. False statement and false report of a crime. And it's pending, and it's pending, and it's pending. Then all of a sudden, as this case is ramping up, and Mr. Copeland's going to have to take the stand and be asked about his pending charges and his prior lies, all of a sudden, on January 18th, 2024, Fonnie Willis and her employee, Kenneth Hutcherson, quietly dismissed the case against Kenneth Copeland, the case of false statement, a case of false report of a crime. Why did they do it, according to that sheet? Was it, oh, we actually looked at the video again and it actually supported Kenneth Copeland? No. Was it the victim didn't want to prosecute? No. Prosecutorial discretion. They decided it was in their best interest to dismiss that case against Kenneth Copeland before he testified. Remember I told Kenneth Copeland about it? I thought he was going to get up and hug me. He said, my case is dismissed? Yeah, sure was. State took care of you. You're not on this indictment either. Kenneth Copeland's a liar. He's a proven liar. And let's talk about his prior statements he made, because we know on June 10, 2015,
Gotta
he said
finesse
that
my
Meekian Garlington
way.
gave him certain information and that Shannon Stillwell was one of the people responsible for killing Donovan Thomas. Meekian told him
He's
that
now the proud owner of a
Kenneth Copeland said on June 10, 2015.
Maybach.
Well, we learned that
Get
Kenneth
ready to
Copeland
buy a
actually met with the
house.
police in 2015 4 times prior
He
to that June
did
10,
fare out
2015
well
interview.
after this trial.
We learned that he met with investigator Thorpe on January 11th. Now, mind you, all these meetings,
You don't even got to try to rap.
presumably, if it were true, Kenneth Copeland would have that knowledge of what Meekian Garlington said to him for all these meetings. January 11, 2015, he goes in to talk to Thorpe. Doesn't say anything about Meekian Garlington telling him that Shannon Stillwell was involved in Donovan Thomas.
How many bobbling?
Places himself at the Green Store, which is
7.
less than a minute away from the scene of the Donovan Thomas
7
murder.
bobbling heads.
And he's asked about, specifically by
At
Detective Thorpe,
least.
if he's ever rented or driven an Infinity. And what does Kenneth Copeland say? No, never. Denies it completely. That's on January 11th. That's the night going into the morning after of the Donovan Thomas homicide. And of course, we know that's a lie because Kenneth Copeland was in the Infinity on the night of January 9th with Quindarius Zachary. So he lies right off the bat to Detective Thorpe. January 28th, he meets with Thorpe, Dennis, and Gaither. Again, never mentions this supposed statement by Meekian Garlington about Shannon Stillwell being involved. In fact, he's asked specifically who he thought killed Donovan Thomas. He mentions his friend Doc and goes back and forth about whether Doc could have done it or not. He shares a theory about Donovan Thomas running off with someone's drugs. He shares a theory about Kelvin Watts robbing people and Donovan Thomas being caught in that situation. And he's also asked on January 28th about a rumor that he stole Donovan Thomas's chain. And what's he say? Oh, no, I didn't do that. Someone else apparently stole Donovan Thomas' chain, and they brought it to me, and I realized it was Donovan Thomas' stuff, and I returned it. I don't have any problems with Donovan Thomas. Me and Donovan Thomas are cool. He also said that on the 11th. So then we go to February 20th, the third statement he gave. Again, never mentions anything about what Meekian Garlington supposedly told him. And investigator Curry, asked him about the Donovan Thomas case. Doesn't know anything. And then on February 21st, with Gaither and Thorpe, he's again asked about the Donovan Thomas case. Never mentions, oh, Meekian Garlington at McDonald's told me that Shannon Stillwell did it. Again, he's asked about Donovan Thomas's chain, and it's another lie. Oh, well, someone brought it to me. He sticks with that lie. Lie after lie after lie. Denying beef with Donovan Thomas, denying stealing Donovan Thomas's chain, denying ever being in Infinity. But those are the statements that Kenneth Copeland gave leading up to June 10th, 2015. Could you put on page 33, Mr. Kokomo? So this is a picture from June 10th, 2015 that's in evidence, and it is misleading. It shows Mr. Copeland wearing street clothes, civilian clothes, not a blue jumpsuit, but let's not get confused, let's not get it twisted. On June 10th, 2015, Kenneth Copeland, for the first time, was headed to jail for serious charges. That's what's different about this interview.
Yepers.
He was headed to Rice Street. He had a gun charge from the Dunbar Rec Center. Remember when he brought the stick into the rec center and left it on the bleachers? He had just been arrested on that warrant from when he did that. And when they arrested him on a warrant, they came into his girlfriend Deshaun Quarterman's apartment. And what did they find? They find another gun, a stolen Smith & Wesson, in Deshaun's kitchen. And they find a stolen MacBook in Deshaun's apartment. And they find stolen IDs and stolen property in Deshaun's
Like, do
car.
you really, truly think he did it?
And so now we got 2 guns, stolen property. Oh, and then the police are saying, oh, the stolen property, it's linked to auto breakings that have happened in your neighborhood. So he's got guns, and then he's got a federal agent in there as well, Agent Cunningham, who's talking about these cases going federal. He's got a lot.
I think a lot more evidence shows
and promises are
that
made. Well, let's talk about the threats first. And all these officers say
there's
oh,
a lot more
I
evidence
wouldn't
that's
threaten-
not
I'm
in
not
his
threatening no bodily harm on
favor.
him.
It is that.
I'm going to tell you.
I
Max Sharp said this here today.
truly think
Y'all threaten to punch me in the face anytime, but don't threaten to put me in
more
prison for
likely
25 years. No
not.
blood. That's a real threat that gets my attention. You can punch me. But the state and the police act like statements that Agent Cunningham made, like you're an armed career criminal. We got you dead to rights. You're facing 15 plus 10. That's 25. No parole. You're not going to get out till you're 48. And that's not even including the conspiracies. You won't see your children till you're 48. That's a threat. That's a lot more bigger threat than I'm going to punch you in the face or we're going to beat you until you confess. That's a threat.
I
What else do
agree.
they say? It's totally up to you.
He
if you
definitely
think
needs
charges
to
go
put
federal or
money
not.
away.
You have to help yourself. I'm going to call the U.S. attorney, and
If
they're going to
they
ask
don't
me,
convict
what
him
did he
of
do
it?
to help himself? You see what goes on here? This isn't an accident. This is the playbook.
I
Get the
think
liar,
they might just come after
get him
him.
jammed up,
I really
threaten
do.
him, tell him he's not going to see his kids again until he's 48.
Because everybody
And
who
then,
testified
we can do
so
something
far in
for
this
you.
trial,
Just give us
they
what
have
we
to
want.
testify for the next 12 too.
And yes,
So Woody has to testify
That was
again.
enough
Moonton got to
to make
testify again. Zachary
self-admitted
got to
liar,
testify again.
self-admitted
They
finesser,
call them,
a person who fully
but they
admits
have
that he would
to
lie on
testify in all
anyone to
these
get out of jail,
trials,
to stay out of jail, to get out of trouble.
not
That was
just
enough
this
to
one.
coax him to make up a story about Shannon Stillwell and others. And that was actually enough to put his plan in motion because he knew someone was going to have to back up his story, and that was enough.
Rooney Lee,
to
Obama,
reach out to Demekion
all the
Garlington and try to
cops,
get Demekion Garlington to go out and go on with the story.
all
Which,
the
of course,
GBI
Mr.
labs,
he's
and
no longer friends with Mr. Garlington because Mr. Garlington would not go along with
Dennis may get another go at it. Gaither may get another go at it. Underwood,
Maybe you say,
Barreto,
Max,
all of them may get another
he's a
go at
liar.
it.
He was jammed up. But maybe this threat of prosecution.
Yeah, he said the door wasn't locked. He said the door was
maybe
open.
he was being
He didn't
truthful on
steal
June
it.
2015.
He just
Well, let's
took
think about
it.
what else he said on June
I guess
2015.
is there another word
Remember
for taking
when they were talking about those auto breakings,
someone else's
Said,
vehicle
you're gonna have to answer these auto breakings. Why do you have all this property
without
in
their
this car?
knowledge or
You know
permission?
you're involved.
That is different from stealing.
Nah, that was Lil Mike and Quez that did them. Remember the detectives? They looked at each other. Lil Mike and Quez,
I was so
Lil Mike and
happy
Quez.
Lil Mike and Quez came out.
But what did we learn in the cross-examination of Kenneth Copeland? Lil Mike and Quez, not only did they not do the auto breakings that Kenneth Copeland claimed they did on June 10, 2015,
They didn't exist.
Lil Mike and Quez, they don't exist. He made them up on the spot on June 10th of 2015. So my answer to you, if you think, oh, this pressure was needed to get Kenneth Copeland to finally be truthful, nope. He was lying. He made up people that didn't exist in this very statement that the state wants you to take as truthful from one of the biggest liars we've ever seen in our lives. Ms. Kokomo, if you could play.
I'm there with you, Kristen. I am.
35.
I really am. They kept saying
And what
he
did Kenneth Copeland say
YSL was on a
call
plate.
from the Fayette County
He
Jail?
never
on
said
December
that.
21st,
He said he was on a
2022?
plate.
A recording call that Attorney Steele brought out.
First thing I did it. First thing I did it. I ain't got to do it. I lied to it because I found out he I can't say that. I can't say that on the phone, but you know what I mean. It's some shit happened between me and him back then, and just so happened I got locked up in Mississippi. You feel me?
He admitted. He said, I lied on Thug. The very same interview, he was saying all sorts of things about Thug. He admitted he was lying. He was making stuff up to get himself out of trouble, to get out of his situation. And he got caught on a recorded line saying as much. Ladies and gentlemen, Detective Thorpe fell for the finesse. Ken Copeland said it was easy. Lieutenant Gaither fell for the finesse. The police department fell for the finesse. Kenneth Copeland got up on the stand and explained the finesse to your faces. We know better than to fall for Kenneth Copeland's finesse. We know better than to just accept his words.
I mean, it's still crazy to me
This Kokomo on page 36.
that the guns could be in the house, laying in random places, and everybody gets convicted of them.
This is the other state's witness, the other witness that they chose.
Drugs in the house in different places. Everybody is
convicted. Wearing the jail blues, and he had every reason to lie to get himself out of trouble. First of all, what did Quindarius Zachary say at trial? He admitted that he lied on Shannon in two prior statements, one August 5th, 2015 to Lieutenant Gaither, and then one in a proper session on March 3rd of 2017. And he also admitted on cross-examination that even those two statements, those two lies he told about Shannon Stillwell, were not even consistent with each other. But none of the police seemed to mind. None of the prosecutors seemed to mind. Why? Remember his lie? His lie was, the night of the Donovan Thomas killing, Shannon Stillwell confessed to me at Jeffrey Williams' condo. And then he also went on to lie about Shannon Stillwell on this August 5th, 2015 statement, lied about Shannon Stillwell's involvement in a bunch of other cases that Shannon Stillwell has never been charged with. He just lied on Shannon. And he admitted his motivation for lying on Shannon. He admitted that he knew, or he was under the belief, that when he talked to the police, when he talked to Lieutenant Gaither, first of all, he needed to get bond. He had been locked up for about 7 days. His family had been calling Gaither. We heard about that, begging her to go up and talk to him. What was the urgency? Well, we didn't get into details, but we learned that Mr. Zachary has a serious illness.
Like they said, everybody knew what Nuts' car looked like. Everybody knew it was Nuts' car.
To get out. So he has people calling Gaither, come see me, I want to talk to you.
I mean, it was a Planter's Peanut Man.
He also
clearly you knew whose necklace that was.
April 28, 2015 case, which he was facing.
So it had to have been
He told you, I was under the impression, and I didn't do the math, this may be right, this may be wrong, but this was his impression, that he was facing something like 185 years. Yeah, that's pretty good motivation to lie. And then he was also concerned because he got caught with a gun on May 7, 2015, that he knew was ballistically linked to other crimes. So that was a reason for him to lie. And finally, why Shannon? Because he wanted to get back at Demekion Darlington, because Demekion had told the police about the April 28, 2015 incident. And he figured blaming Shannon for things was a way to get back at Demekion, because at that time, Demekion and Shannon were close friends. So those were his motivations. Let's talk about the statements he gave. We heard about investigator Gaither being called repeatedly to go down there to talk to him on August 5th, 2015. And she said, okay, remember, he wanted to talk about other stuff. He didn't want to talk about his case. He wanted to immediately get to the point where he's telling lies on other people to get bond or get released, get consideration. And Gaither, to her credit, said, no, we got to talk about your case first. Let's talk about April 28, 2015. And what he said, I wasn't there. I wasn't there. The only reason I know about it is because Demekion Garlington told me the next day. So immediately, he's lying to the police, saying he wasn't there, which of course we know he was there. Lieutenant Gaither knows he was there. But what's his explanation? It's odd. It's interesting. It seems to be a recurring theme. I wasn't there, but, and where did he say he was also? I was at home because I'm always sick, right? I was at home. I'm always sick. I wasn't there. And the only reason I know about this is because Demekion Garlington the next day confessed to me. Seen a pattern? Everyone's always confessing to Quindarius Zachary, according to Quindarius Zachary. Of course, that was a lie. Demekion Garlington had not confessed to him. That was made up. He made up a story about someone confessing to him. And in fact, he was there. Gaither called him on it. He 2 or 3 times said, I swear I'm telling the truth. I swear, I swear, I swear. And finally he gave up the lie. And then he proceeded to move on to other cases and make up lies on Shannon. March 3rd, 2017 was the second statement set up by his lawyers. You got to understand what the proper session is. It was a session for him to give as much information as he could about as many instances as he could. And the DAs were in the room. They can consider the information given, and then they can give any consideration that they deem appropriate to Quindarius Zachary for his assistance in providing information. Those were the 2 statements. But here's the thing. You know, it's not complicated to keep a story straight if it's the truth. But if you're making up lies, the context, the details tend to change. It's a little bit more difficult to keep everything straight. And I think about all of us. You know, I think about when I was a kid. I saw a space shuttle explode on TV when I was watching it take off. And I remember exactly where I was. I remember who was sitting next to me. I remember whose class it was. I remember what grade I was in. It's etched into my memory. I remember when my favorite football team first won their Super Bowl in my lifetime. I remember everything about that. I remember who the announcers were. I remember who won the MVP. I remember what room I was watching the game in. I remember who I was watching the game with. I remember when this country elected their first black president, our first black president. I remember who I was watching TV with that night, the emotions, what room I was in, what channel I was watching. I remember even silly things. I remember watching the Oscars and seeing a man run up on another man and slap him in the face while I was watching with my wife.
Will Smith
in our old house.
Chris Rock.
While she talked on the phone with her sister. I remember those details, those things that are etched into my mind. And I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, if a friend of mine came up to me in real life like this, if it really happened, if a friend of mine came up to me and said, Max, I have something to tell you. Earlier tonight, I murdered one of the most powerful gang members in all of Atlanta. I submit to you, ladies and gentlemen, that I would remember exactly where I was when he said it. I would know exactly what was going on, where we were, who else was there, and what exactly was said.
I remember
that's the type of thing you wouldn't forget. That's the type of thing you wouldn't forget details of. But what do we know about Quindarius Zachary's renditions of this alleged confession by Shannon Stillwell? It changed. It changed from August 5th, 2015 to March 3rd of 2017. On August 5th, 2015, he claimed that Shannon Stillwell confessed, but just said, we caught nut down bad. On August 5th, 2015, he said, we caught nut down bad. And then, according to Mr. Zachary, on August 5th, 2015, Shannon Stillwell also named 3 other individuals in the car. That was his statement on August 5th, 2015. But then on March 3rd, 2017, he's asked about the same alleged confession. And it's, Shannon just told me he caught nut down bad. And he didn't give me any other details at all. Didn't say anyone else who was in the car. What about the timing of the confession? On August 5th, 2015, Quindarius Zachary claims the confession occurred just as he and Moontrunk pulled up to Jeffrey's condo. And Shannon was about to go to a girl's house. And we crossed paths, and he confessed to me. On March 3rd, 2017, what was the story? No, Shannon wasn't there when I arrived at the Sky House. Shannon didn't show up till later that night, till about 4 or 5 a.m. He was dropped off by some girls. I know because I let him into the condo. How do those details change about something that would stick in your mind if it were true? And the answer is because it's not true. Because it was a story that was made up by Quindarius Zachary, who was facing 185 years, who needed to get out of jail because he had a serious illness, who knew that the gun he had been arrested with was going to be linked to other crimes. And just like Kenneth Copeland, he was someone that was willing to lie to get himself out of trouble. And at that particular time, the state, the investigators, and everyone else had enough leverage on him to force him to make that decision to lie on someone else to save himself. It's a sick game.
Yep.
Sick game. So we got these 2 liars who were strategically interviewed at the very time they're most likely to lie. Wouldn't it be cool if we had some corroboration of what these 2 no liars claim? Phone records. The state has repeatedly claimed that there's some corroboration in these phone records, and I give Agent Bernie some credit. That was the FBI cast agent that talks about the phone records and plots them. He was very careful. He was very clear. This does not give exact locations. First of all, it's just devices, not people, but it doesn't give exact locations. It doesn't tell you where people were. It gives a general area. it tells you what cell phone may have been closest to the device when it was being used. And these cell phone towers have all different radiuses and all different signal strengths. So you just get a general idea. You got to be very careful about what you read into these cell phone records. That's what he said, the expert. And yes, he talked about different people calling different people that know each other calling different people on January 10, 2015. Shouldn't be that surprising. And yeah, he put Kenneth Copeland, as did ADA Sprinkle, Kenneth Copeland at the Green Store, in the general area of the Green Store around the time of the homicide. The Green Store that is what? A minute away from the barbershop? What did the phone records corroborate again? That Kenneth Copeland was right there at the time of the murder? That people were generally going north and south on the highway? What did they say about Shannon Stillwell? Where did they say he was? Go look at those phone records. Did they provide any cell phone records for Shannon Stillwell? How about Diamante Kendrick? What is the power of those cell phone records again? What did they corroborate? Did they have Kenneth Copeland wear a wire? Remember when he was so desperate to get out of jail? I'll wear a wire. That would have been an idea. Prove what you're saying, Kenneth. Don't just, you're a liar. You're a known liar. Don't just tell us stuff. Prove it. Nope, they didn't put a wire on Kenneth. What about wiretapping phones? We know they know how to do that. Did they wiretap anyone's phone to corroborate anything Kenneth Copeland and Quindaria Zachary said? Nope. So then we get to surveillance video. And this is where this gets kind of ugly. Kenneth Copeland claims he was at the Green Store, not outside the barbershop at the time of the killing. And his phone records put him in that general area. How many times have myself or Attorney Steele asked about the Green Store? Detective Thorpe claims that he went to the Green Store to try to get surveillance.
Yes,
they had any.
but
because I heard about my client
a lot of times the detectives had different stories too.
Responded and looked at the surveillance.
So Fulton County
who was shooting at my
versus Fulton County
pictures of the Green Store. I see the cameras.
The detectives had different stories. Their stories didn't always align.
Do you have that in any of your reports?
Especially if they weren't Dennis Gaither, Viverito, and Belknap.
Oh no, that's not in my report. Ask Gaither, Lieutenant Gaither, about the Green Store.
Sometimes in police officers
really
was a little different too.
I beg to differ. She had no interest in corroborating Kenneth Copeland. So then we talk about the McDonald's surveillance. The McDonald's at Old Hateville and Cleveland Avenue, the very spot where Kenneth Copeland claimed in his story that everyone met and that Demekion Garlington told him who killed Donovan Thomas. Well, we know the McDonald's has surveillance. That's been testified to by several officers. And we know we don't have the McDonald's surveillance for January 10th, 2015. So I ask, Attorney Steele asks, I ask, other attorneys ask. First we asked Gaither.
Hi, Mike.
Did you ever try to get surveillance to McDonald's? And what did she say? Oh, we went like 2 or 3 months later. We went and we talked to a general manager, and they weren't able to get into the cameras right then. But we took the card and we gave the card to Thorpe. That was her explanation of the efforts to get camera footage from McDonald's. I said, okay, do you have that in a report that you drove down to McDonald's and talked to? Who was the person you talked to? What was their title? What was their name? Where's the card? Oh no, I don't have that in a report. Nope. Okay, so then we asked Thorpe, what did you do to get surveillance from McDonald's to corroborate anything Kenneth Copeland said? And this is where it gets ugly. He said, I went a couple days later and I talked to the people and they said the footage had been erased. The 15-day or however many days the cycle is ended and all the footage was erased and it started all over again. That piqued our interest because everyone knows that's not the way surveillance cameras work. Everyone knows it's first in, first out on a rolling basis, meaning if it's a 15-day cycle, at the end of 15 days, everything isn't just erased, but it starts taping over the beginning parts again, so you always have 15 days memory. Everyone knows that you wouldn't go to the McDonald's 2 days after an incident and find out that the whole system had been erased, because that's not how surveillance systems work. And we asked every officer, it seemed, that came up here, you ever hear of a surveillance system working that way? Where just all erases at one time, or does it roll first in, first out? Every one of them said they never heard of a surveillance system just erasing all at one time. Every single one of them. So does that McDonald's on that corner of Old Hateville and Cleveland Avenue have a one-of-a-kind, a one-of-one surveillance system that they're operating? I don't think so. But what does that mean? It means Detective Thorpe lied to us. He lied to y'all. He didn't go to try to get that surveillance from the McDonald's. He didn't go 2 days later. What did we hear from DA Sprinkle? Remember that? And that's a straight shoot. DA Sprinkle. What did DA Sprinkle say when we asked him about it? Hey, did Detective Thorpe ever mention trying to go get the footage from the McDonald's? Did that ever come up? Because, we've been asking a lot about this McDonald's footage. What did DA Sprinkle say? Detective Thorpe never brought that up to me. And that seems like something he would have brought up. Detective Thorpe lied. Either that, or he did go get the footage, and it doesn't back up Kenneth Copeland's claims, and it's in his missing file somewhere, which he can't find to bring to court.
Yes, they were, Kristen. Yes, they were. Down to the finale of experts, Viverito herself.
Who killed Donovan Thomas?
Disappointing.
It's not our burden to solve this case, first of all. The jury instructions are clear. It's not our job to solve cases, especially cases that happened 9 years ago. But to the extent that it factors into the question of reasonable doubt that Mr. Stillwell committed that crime, let's just leave it like this. I know someone who has a closest associate named Trevante Turner. I know of someone who is arch enemies with a man named Kelvin Watts, who's the brother of Donovan Thomas. I know of someone who, with Trevante Turner, went and shot up Rich Homie Kwan's father's barbershop in 2014. I know of someone who stole Donovan Thomas's nut chain and wallet and cell phone out of his truck in late 2014. And when asked about it by the police, repeatedly lied about that situation, repeatedly pretended that him and Donovan Thomas were cool. I know someone who was jumped by Kelvin Watts in Club Crucial on January 6, 2015. I know someone who basically admitted on the stand, I'm listening to shooting up the TIG studios at 675 Metropolitan Avenue on January 8th, 2015, 2 days before Donovan Thomas's death. A shooting shot a hole in Rich Homie Kwan's windshield. And if you recall from the officer who responded to the scene, a shooting that very well may have occurred while Donovan Thomas was present.
You know what?
Remember, I asked that officer,
I'm about
there
to.
in the studio at the time? Yes, they were. Who were they? I don't know. They wouldn't open the door. They wouldn't come and answer. And I know someone who was put on the proverbial plate.
Let's put
by
this
Donovan
up
Thomas
to
on January
2
8th, 2015.
because I really want to get to Hilton's before midnight.
I got somebody on his name. He said he called the night. Well, I got it. They got killed with. It was a Friday night. They had no, it was Thursday night.
Judge Whitaker's probably like, we need to wrap this up, like, for real.
And the whole meeting was based on me. They were all talking about this and this time I did this. So the nigga Mo was on the phone. So Mo told everybody, I mean, every day one of y'all, whoever 90s scraps you, whoever that nickname, supposed to kill me. They gave all them guns. They saying like they gave them guns. They treat me to the gas station and kill me. He kind of told me everything. He said, is this person really yours?
The whole meeting was based on me. Gave all of them guns. They were instructed to trick me to the gas station. This wasn't some universal Donovan Thomas after everyone. This wasn't Donovan Thomas after YSL. It certainly wasn't Donovan Thomas after Shannon Stillwell. They were after Kenneth Copeland. I know somebody who had the opportunity. Not only does cell phone records put him right in the area, but we know the car was, we know the shooting, the murder was perpetrated using a certain Infiniti. An Infiniti that was rented for Kenneth Copeland by Jeffrey Williams. Because Kenneth Copeland needed a car. An Infiniti that Kenneth Copeland was in possession of the day before the Donovan Thomas shooting. An Infiniti which was last known to be in the hands of Kenneth Copeland and Quindarius Zachary before, according to Kenneth Copeland, he handed it off to his good friend, closest associate, partner in shooting up Rich Homie Kwan's father's barbershop, Trevante Turner, also known as Threat. In conclusion, regarding count 2, ladies and gentlemen, there's an absolute lack of reliable evidence against Shannon Stillwell. He had no motive. His problems with all these people happened afterwards. Once APD falsely accused him. Once the streets falsely accused him of committing this crime. That's when people started shooting at his head and shooting at cars he was riding in. He didn't have any problems with Donovan Thomas. There's no evidence of that. There's no forensics, no DNA, no cell phone records putting Shannon Stillwell at any scenes. He's not on the Texaco video.
It's my chest. It's like my head is full of
just 2 witnesses, both proven and admitted liars.
Like it hurts
who changed their
to even
stories
cough it up like it's not coming.
On tape, right in front of all of us. Both people who had every reason to lie when they gave their stories.
Kristen, you just
people that were chosen by the state to be the key witnesses in the case. But 2 witnesses, to their credit, who at least came in here and owned up to the fact that they were weak. They chose themselves. They chose to lie on others to save themselves, and at least they came in and told you that. Other than that, there's no corroboration at all. All right, got a little more to go. Okay. That was my hint.
All right, they're gonna take this break. This is when Judge Whitaker mouths to him like, hurry it up, bruh. We're gonna go ahead and skip that. I did make some pho though.
I'm going to try to be back as soon as you can. As soon as we can get all the jurors taken care of, we'll all get back because it's going to be a long day.
Here we go. Like Sharks is nervous. Like he's excited but nervous. Like jumping up and down.
Let's start out by just reviewing kind of the basic evidence, standard evidence, and then we're going to get into some of the more complicated matters that came up during trial. There's no eyewitnesses. There's no DNA. There's a fingerprint that was briefly alluded to that was found on Chanel Drinks' car that does not belong to Mr. Stillwell or anyone else in this case. There's no ballistic matches. We know that the projectiles or the bullets that hit Mr. Drinks twice, once in the neck, once in the arm, we know that they were 40 caliber bullets. Okay, that's what we know. What else have we heard through trial? We heard about a phone that Mr. Stillwell had. We heard a lot of his songs off that phone, and we also heard about some other things. We heard about a article.
Oh, Chris, I was just telling you, you're my support system, girl.
17th, 2022. It was a Fox News article about the shooting on Windsor Street.
I love you.
That's 3 days after the
My
homicide.
support system.
That is after Mr. Stillwell's girlfriend at the time, Miss Alexander, alerted him to the fact that there was a shooting on Windsor Street. It's after
Give me encouragement
it's
to
after
keep
she
going.
sent a post posted by someone else on Instagram about this shooting on Windsor Street. It's after his grandmother, Miss Jackson, reached out to him to check if he was okay because she saw the news report about the shooting on the news. All that happened on the evening of March 14th. That's how quickly news traveled. It should be of no surprise that by March 17th, probably sooner than that, there was an article about this incident on the internet, on the Fox News website, the local Fox 5 website. Mr. Stillwell clicked on an article 3 days afterwards. Additionally, we heard about Mr. Stillwell being in the, we know that he's in the rap, or he's trying to make his way in the rap game. And we know that on the evening of March 14th, going into March 15th,
Where I'm
Mr. Stillwell
now,
was in the
it's
studio. We know there
almost
was
6
a
o'clock.
note in his phone that talked about a very standard, very common, not a particularly unique line at all, not unique at all, to be quite honest, from drill music, about hops that was put in his notes while he was in the studio making drill music. So we have that. Neither of those two things in his phone are particularly noteworthy. They're not strong evidence of anything, but they were brought to your attention by Investigator Viverito, who searched his phone far and wide for any information she could find, and that was what she found. We heard about social media posts, and we heard that those social media posts were collected by Investigator Viverito, and we went back and forth with Investigator Viverito, we being me, about her work collecting those posts. There's no reports on who she was following, what she was looking for, who she was checking out on Instagram, who she wasn't checking out on Instagram. We also know from a post by Mr. Nichols that was presented to you initially in a far different form than it was actually on the internet, that Investigator Viverito was not only collecting posts, but she was manipulating them to present to you in a way that she deemed fit, because she is biased.
And not surprising.
Made posts about what was going on in March of 2022. We know, and I'm not going to hide from it, that Mr. Stillwell made posts.
Shut her up.
About Maine Christian McMiller's death on March 11th, about Darius Ford's death, about how his heart is broken, about how he ain't gonna be the only one crying. We know that there were posts on both sides from everyone in the community about what was going on in March 2022. But the takeaway from the post is this, and it actually came from Investigator Viverito. I don't think she really wanted to admit it, but she did. We talked to her about the March 11th killing of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford, and about that investigation. Now we're talking about 2 years and 8 months ago now, how it remains unsolved, how no one's been charged. Okay, and we looked at some of the posts that were made in reference to that incident. We heard about a Big Nick who posted just after that incident, slime and chalk, and we know what that. I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And we know about these other accounts, Edgewood, I think it was Edgewood James and Jody Hurst, 2 other accounts that weren't necessarily their names, may have been kind of like pseudo accounts or fictitious accounts, celebrated in really the most vile ways possible in the deaths of Christian McMiller and Darius Ford. And I asked Investigator Viverito, and she confirmed, even if they're fictitious accounts, you can see who was posting, you can pull IP address, you can try to look into that and figure out who was posting. If you really thought that these posts, if you really thought posting about the crime was a confession to murder. And she agreed, she could, but they didn't, because it's not. We learned about Kelvin Watts, also known as Shell Cow, and we saw the post that he made right after the murder of
They're trying to make a confession post
about him
on why
2 shells under Dr. Thomas's eyes, about him looking in the camera and putting 2 shells under his eyes. 4 different posts. Another post about with 2 shells.
Why Fenton posts are not
confession, about what those shells meant.
but YSL posts are
confession. And they meant bodies in her estimation. So Kelvin Watts is sitting there posting, putting symbols of dead bodies under his own eyes in his own way with the shells. And I asked Investigator Viverito, and he also made a song. We heard about the song he made, My Death, where he's celebrating death, where he's describing the death, how they were in a fast car, and how they died on the freeway. Direct references to the death of Christian McMillan and Darius Ford. And so I asked Investigator Viverito, all these posts that Kelvin Watts has made, has he been charged? And the answer was no. And why was the answer no? Because posts on the internet about the death of people, even claims of responsibility, such as putting two shells under your own eyes, that's not enough to charge someone. That's not a confession. Investigator Viverito said the reality is, in this day and age, under these circumstances, dealing in this situation with the drill music and everything else, there's false claiming going on all the time. We can't go by what's on the internet. We can't go by what's
Shannon posting about
that's not a confession.
Peanut's grave.
That's what we learned from
Not a
confession.
confession.
That's what she was forced to concede when we talked about the
Monique Lee talking about
so when we're realizing
writing on a tombstone, even though he wasn't talking about the flat, he said he didn't even know.
Idiotic posts
that wasn't
made by Nikki on Garlington, or even my client, Mr. Stillwell. Let's keep that in mind. Those aren't confessions. Those are posts, and they're common. And even Investigator Viverito, who I have maintained pretty clearly his not an honest broker was biased. Even
Got you,
she
girl.
had to admit that.
We're almost there. We're getting there.
Ballistics is interesting because we know about the FN that Mr. Stillwell is allegedly linked with, 57 FN, and that was always a hole in the state's case, right? Mr. Drinks was shot with 40 caliber bullets. Mr. Stillwell has never been linked to any weapon that shoots 40 caliber bullets, at least not in 2022. So investigator Vic Rito shows up in court, looking to put her stamp on the case, looking to sway the jurors, and she looks at a video, and she says, "Yeah, on that table, I think that's a Glock 27, based on the bottom of the grip."
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an expert. I'm not saying it is, but I'm just going to kind of hypothesize in front of the jury that it's a Glock 27, and they shoot 40 caliber bullets. Okay, you're not an expert, but you're throwing that in front of the jury. Never said it before until you're on the stand. And what's your experience with Glock 27s? Well, one time I went to the gun store, and I was trying to decide what kind of gun to buy, and I held a Glock 27. That's it. Think about Investigator Viverito and her bias, and her trying to sway you and identify, or claim to identify, a firearm and make it model from that picture, and what her basis is, what her real basis is. Any evidence that Mr. Stillwell ever possessed that gun? And what did she say?
Wow, it was out that whole time.
Mr. Stillwell has ever possessed that gun. She said, "Well, do you have any evidence?" Or, "I don't have any evidence that he didn't." Well, geez, that's an interesting shifting of the burden of proof from the state's witness. She's biased. She came in there to try to solve the key problem of the state's case, which is that Mr. Stillwell is not linked to any weapon that could possibly shoot the fatal bullets in the Jamel Drinks case. And she tried to solve that problem for the state with her little trick and her little identification based on one-time handling a gun in some pawn shop or some gun store somewhere. Don't fall for it. It just shows your bias.
It's about 5 minutes.
So we heard the wiretaps. State brought on the wiretaps. And yes, the wiretaps do show Mr. Stillwell. We heard a call. Mr. Stillwell laughed about sneaking out when the police showed up and talking about taking a stick and his FN from the house after the police showed up. We own that. We acknowledge that. Neither of those guns could shoot the bullets that killed Mr. Drinks. But there was another wiretap that was played that I'd like us to just hear again. And you know where I'm going? Okay. It was from a call on April 1st, 12:29 a.m. And the state made such a big deal of this. Of course, the wiretap, just don't play it. The state made a big deal of this because it's a wiretap. Meekyoung Garlington's on one end on his cell phone. And the state made such a big deal about Mr. Stillwell, what he was doing on this call on April 1st. Of course, we know he was in jail. He'd been arrested on March 17th. So he's in jail and he's talking to Meekyoung Garlington. And they make a big deal. He's on a contraband phone. He's on a contraband phone. Now, I'm not saying that's right, but let's think about that scenario for a second. We've been sitting here for a year listening to the same. This call is subject to being recorded, right? Every time someone comes from the jail because it is recorded. Mr. Stillwell's on a cell phone. He doesn't know Mr. Garlington's phone is tapped. Mr. Garlington doesn't know his phone is tapped. As far as they're concerned, they're having a private conversation. They have cut out the recording and are having a private conversation about March 14th, 2022. And what did they say? First, Mr. Cook,
Yeah.
239 to 310.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm telling folks, I'm like, shit, what the hell they got up for? Like, they just saying, like, you know, like, but they good. I'm like, they gonna assume shit like that anyway. They gonna assume that, like, I mean, they ain't killing those.
So I keep telling you now, really, I keep telling him like, just chill. Like, I know, yeah, I'm like, this ain't nothing, bro. Like, they just doing that because it seems as a guy, I guess, just like, they chill. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
In this private conversation that they're having, they're not saying, "Oh, how can we cover this up? Oh, I think they're onto us. Oh no, I think they got us." They're saying, "We didn't do anything." They're just assuming we did stuff because we're at the gas station, which is a fact that we have never denied. They were in fact at the gas station. They're having a private conversation and they're talking about how innocent they are and how the police got it wrong. And Mr. Stillwell is just saying, let's let it work itself out. So let's go to
it's gonna be real interesting, Kristen, because if Whitaker is the presiding judge going forward,
I already know, like, when
they already know
she
she ain't gonna be with this stuff, so they're gonna have to come.
Yeah, don't come back clean. You know what I'm saying?
And you know, there's already stuff that she didn't exclude.
First of all, no one said the car.
I don't know if they're gonna be able to
come back
in.
And now listen to what Mr. Stillwell said.
Whitaker, she
gonna be like, going to wipe it down, doing GD, you know, the gunpowder forensic, all that HIT. The gunpowder forensic. Does Mr. Stillwell sound like an expert in gunshot residue?
And I do.
Does he really sound like someone that's going to say, "Oh, I have so much inside knowledge on this forensic work that the police do on the inside of cars that we must clean the headline of all things"? Did that? No. Sounds like someone
Ashley Merchant lawsuit.
That they were in a car on March 14th.
They kind of just seem like some straight.
Knows that they were at the BP. Knows that they left and they drove down.
They'll call out both
sides.
sides.
Despite the fact that he's been arrested falsely for killing another gentleman, he knows in his heart that no gun was fired by him inside that car or outside that car. That's how he knows it's going to come back clean. It's not some devious mastermind that's got some inside information on forensic work. He barely knows what he's talking about. You know that gunpowder forensic, all that SHIT. That's a comment of someone that knows where they were on March 14th and where they were driving and what they did not do. And what they did not do was fire a gun. Talk about the rental car. State made a big deal of this rental car. Yes, Mr. Stillwell rented a car on March 14, 2022. First of all, we've seen the BP tape. There was no plan, okay? This was a chance encounter. It was unforeseen that Jamel Drinks would ever show up at a gas station. So there's no indication that people would be renting a car in anticipation of running into Chanel drinks. Okay. The reality is, we heard
anything,
about what was
this
going
trial
on in
is
Mr.
gonna
Stillwell's
let
case.
the
We
state
know from his
know
phone, we
where
heard
they
from Miss
messed
Alexander, who
up at,
testified. Remember
where
what
they
she
need
said?
to tighten up at.
March 9th, I was robbed. I said she's in the cash business. She said, no, I dance. Okay, that's fine. I didn't want to put it out there, but she did. She dances. She carries large amounts of money. And people ran up on her with their guns out and tried to rob her. Remember what she said? I said, you shot at them in self-defense. She said, no, I shot them. She didn't have any remorse about that because people ran up on her to try to take her stuff at gunpoint. But she was
Oh wow.
about the blowback. She was concerned about people coming back to get her. Couple that with the fact that Mr. Stillwell has had a target on his back since 2015. Couple that with the fact that Mr. Ford and Mr. McMiller were just ruthlessly murdered on the freeway while driving in a car that obviously someone knew who they were and had an idea of what kind of car they were in. Is it really any wonder why a car was rented by Mr. Stillwell and Miss Alexander on March 14th? If it's such a secret, if there was such a plan behind this car, isn't it odd that Mr. Stillwell, first of all, they ordered it online ahead of time. Mr. Stillwell walks in there on surveillance,
Now.
gives his ID, gives his name. It wasn't no secret. They were renting a car because things had gotten dangerous. They were trying to survive. And then we make a big deal of these tints.
I think once we
Yeah,
get through a
it
Max,
is what it
we'll
says on the
skip
car.
through the
That's not the point.
Hilton.
That was exactly the point.
We can rewatch
No one's hiding from that. Mr.
Doug.
Stillwell
Dougie
was scared for
Fresh.
safety. He was scared for Miss Alexander's safety. And the first thing he did that night is when he got
I'm
window tints on the
intrigued.
car. And yes, he broke the rental agreement in doing so. We acknowledge that as well. If this was a car that was involved in a homicide on March 14th, let's consider Mr. Stillwell's actions after the fact. I don't know. It seems logical to me that if I'm in a rental car and I use it as part of a homicide, the first thing I'm going to do is get rid of said rental car, distance myself from the rental car. It's on video at the VP. It's on video on Windsor Street. There's surveillance cameras all over the place in Atlanta. The first thing anyone would do if they committed a crime as heinous as this in a rental car is get rid of it. But what do we know that Mr. Stillwell does? Well, first of all, he runs into Investigator Viverito at 2830 Waters Road a day after the homicide, wearing the same clothes he was
He
wearing
did
in the
say that.
not really concealing his identity there. And he tells Investigator Viverito, yeah, that's the car I'm in. That's the car I'm riding in. And then what does he do later in the day on the 16th?
And she also said the longer you talk, the more they are to tune you out.
Griffin, Georgia, and burn it in some back road somewhere? Does he go drop it off in Alabama? No. He calls Alamo and extends the rental until the 20th. Ask yourselves, really? Are those the actions of someone with a guilty conscience? Are those the actions of someone who committed a crime in a rental car? Absolutely not. Why is he doing these things? Because just like how he knows the car's going to come back clean, he knows he didn't do anything in that car. He knows he's innocent. He has no reason to get rid of the car. Okay, let's talk about Dr. Alyssa Simpson. She was the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on Jamel Drinks. She was very important. We didn't realize how important she was at the time, but she was very important. She testified that there were 2 wounds to Mr. Drinks, one to his arm and one to his neck. We don't know which order they came in, but we know the shot to the neck was a fatal injury. It caused a massive injury to the base of his skull and the base of his brain. Dr. Sim Stanley testified about the effects of such an injury. Death would be immediate, and if not immediate, imminent. But more importantly, conscious control of bodily movements would be immediately lost due to this massive injury to the base of the brain. The ability to move body parts up and down would be immediately lost. That came out in her testimony. Now, the state followed up and said, is it possible, if Mr. Drinks' foot was already on the brake when he was shot, is it possible for his foot to remain on the brake? And Dr. Sim Stanley's answer was yes. And of course it is, because staying on the brake does not require any conscious bodily movement. But on cross, I asked a very simple question. Is it possible, after being shot, that Mr. shot in the neck, that Mr. Drinks would be able to actively move his foot up and down off the brake? And unequivocally, with no hesitation, Dr. Sim Stanley said, no, that would not be possible. It would not be possible for Mr. Drinks, after being shot in the neck, to move his foot up and down off that brake. We're going to get to why that, I'm certain many of you know why that's important, but we're going to get to why that's important in a minute. Let's talk about gunshot residue. Detective Hogan was the lead detective in this case. He didn't,
I think
we know, much like the
we're
video,
doing status hearing on December 3rd for the other
we also know that he
defendant
didn't wait for gunshot residue results to come back before taking a warranty, before assuming the guilt of my client, Mr. Stillwell. He, in fact, when he testified, he seemed unaware that there was even any gunshot residue tests performed or anything had been collected. But then we talked to Antoinette Green, who was a crime scene tech, who processed the the white Audi. And she processed the red Versa, but she processed the white Audi. And she informed us that it was, in fact, Detective Hogan who requested that she collect the headliner for the purpose of testing for gunshot residue. And I asked crime scene tech Green, did that seem like an appropriate request to you, collecting the headliner to test for gunshot residue within that car? And she said, yes. The location seemed appropriate. The location of the headliner seemed appropriate. And the fabric that the headliner was made of made it a very appropriate piece of the car to collect to be later tested for gunshot residue. And so she collected it. In fact, she didn't just collect the part over the sunroof. She cut out around that part as well and collected it all and sealed it up, just like she does in every other case. She did her job. She collected it. She sealed it, and she sent it to GBI for testing. I asked scientist, Mr. Colvin, who tested for gunshot residue. I said, well, how about you? What is your thoughts? You ever test headliners before? Yeah, all the time. And does that seem an appropriate part of the car to collect and test for gunshot residue? Absolutely. The fabric is a type of fabric that would tend to hold on to the gunshot residue, to maintain a gunshot residue as opposed to someone's hands or something like that. And also the location is very appropriate. So we heard what Mr. Colvin did. We heard about his process, which is all by the books, all by procedure. how he dabbed that headliner. He didn't just use one tab, he used two. And he dabbed that headliner again and again and again until one tab lost stickiness and he moved to the other tab and continued to dab. And what is he dabbing for? Microscopic particles of gunshot residue that are emitted from a gun when it is fired. And he takes these tabs that he's been dabbing on the headliner and then he looks at it under a microscope, under an electron beam, to look for microscopic particles, of which there are many emitted from a gun when it is fired. A plume of them are emitted from the gun when it is fired. And he looked under that electron microscope and his results were negative. And what does negative mean? Negative doesn't mean,
Max
oh, it's
does
a
like to
threshold
type.
under 5
Oh.
cubic foot or anything like that. Negative means
I like moved it up to
zero
2,
particles
and he's
collected
still
off
like
that headliner
going.
that was collected from the white Audi. So, of course, we're going to talk about the video. The video that Investigator Viverito couldn't wait to talk about when she was on stand, and I wanted to ask her questions about other things. The video that Detective Hogan had not
I think
watched.
with this, I'm gonna fast forward to. We didn't went over this
Mr. Kokomo,
video so much. Let's go to the
and I just want to
closing.
give a little timeline of what I submit we're going to see from this video.
Let's see.
People identifying with YSL, and they bang and bang and bang and try to make it something it's not, and label it a hybrid game. Think about the FedEx video. How many different versions did we hear? How many different hypotheticals from the state? Oh, no muzzle flash must have been shot inside the car. Oh, well, no GSR must be shot from outside the car. Oh, well, the windows were just tinted. Can't roll down the window. Must have opened the door. Oh, no GSR must have been cleaned. Oh, no evidence of it being cleaned. Must have been vacuumed. Oh, or maybe scientist Colvin with the GBI, maybe he tested it incorrectly. Maybe he only dabbed on certain parts that didn't have
I will
GSR.
say,
GSR
because we
all
broke
accumulates
that
in one of those spots,
video
if it's not accumulated, if it's
down
not all over an object where
with
it's shot.
core. I
These are all their
think
theories that they
every
try to use.
did.
Oh, the GSR must have fallen off
I
the
was
bag,
happy that
sealed
he
bag,
did the same.
bag that was sealed
He
and
did break it
protected
down.
from the
I've
elements, just
seen
like
that
every
video
other
so many
evidence, piece
times.
of
We
evidence
broke it
they
down so
use for
many
prosecutions
times.
of other cases. Just throwing stuff out there. Just
He
continuing to
just
try to bang,
finally
bang,
brought
bang,
up
bang,
what we
bang.
had
Just
already
make it fit.
seen.
Make it look good. It's never going to fit because it's not the truth. They don't have an explanation of why that car did a U-turn. There's only one logical explanation. They don't have an explanation for that negative GSR test. They don't have an explanation of why their own witness, a doctor, the ME, said that upon that shot, all bodily control would be lost. And we see the brake light go on and off 3 times after Shannon Stillwell's gone. They don't have explanations, but they just want to bang, bang, bang and try so hard to make it fit. I've had enough of the hammering. I've had enough of the square peg. I've had enough of their narrative and their theory. It's been a year. It's time to put the hammer down. Let's follow the evidence and not the state's narrative. If we follow the real evidence in this case, not what they're trying to sell you, you will come to the conclusion that the state has not proven count 1, conspiracy to violate the RICO Act beyond a reasonable doubt, and you will return the only just verdict in that case and find Mr. Stillwell not guilty. If we follow the evidence and not the narrative about count 2, Donovan Thomas, you will find that the testimony, the uncorroborated testimony of the admitted liar, Kenneth Copeland, the admitted liar, and Darius Zachary, is woefully insufficient. That there's reasonable doubt all over the place, and you will find Mr. Stillwell not guilty, count 2. If we follow the evidence, you will find that not only has the state not proven that that Shannon Stillwell shot Chanel Drinks, not only have they not proven that beyond a reasonable doubt, it's crystal clear that Mr. Stillwell did not commit that crime. And the only just verdict for counts 49 to 54 will be not guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate your time.
All right, so we're gonna skip Doug, and I'm gonna go to
So Rachel Carson.
Hilton, just cause Dougie Fresh. He do his thing.
Well, those communities were communities of color. See, no one rarely talks about the victims in this case. But the victims in this case, most of them are people of color. Because in Fulton County, you don't get to victimize anyone in our county without being held accountable for your actions. And what we're going to ask of you today is hold both of these offenders accountable for their actions.
What do we say? Y'all black people, y'all doing this to us, y'all wrong.
But as both Mr. Shard and Mr. Weinstein were talking, I was reminded that what is right is often forgotten or what's convenient. And see, in this case for them, it's convenient to blame Ken Copeland for the murder of Donovan Thomas. But we'll talk about that doesn't make sense. For them, it is convenient to tell you that we have not met the elements of RICO because they're just not a gang. They just get YSL tatted on them, they just get snakes tatted on them, just for the fun of it. That's convenient for them, but that's not the truth. And while it may take us some time for us to get all the evidence out here,
I hate this, but I'm gonna have to put it on 1.75 because I can't even understand him.
evidence shows what's YSL is a gang, YSL is an enterprise, they commit criminal street gang activity, they murdered Donovan Thomas, murdered Chanel Drinks, and they're victims. And then I'm also reminded of a story a colleague told me a long time ago about someone who worked at a border patrol office.
Nobody cares about the red bike.
For a number of years. And while they were working border patrol, a guy would come through the border with a red bike every day. And every day that person would come through the red bike, come to the basket, tell me what was going on. Guys don't worry about it. Finally, ended up. Border patrol guy is really complicated. He said, just tell me, I don't remember what happened. You're not going to get in trouble. Tell me what you did. And what the guy said was, you know how every day you were focused on the basket with the sand? I was smuggling in a new red bike every single day. So you were so focused on what was in the basket that you was missing what was right in front of you. And if you listen to what the defense counsel told you for the last about 3.5 hours they argue, you won't miss what's right in front of you. So what's staying in the basket in this case? First things first, stolen jewelry. APD, somebody stole this watch. No,
Somebody did steal the watch.
left that in the house, but they want you to focus on this watch because if you focus on the watch, you won't miss the evidence in front of you.
It's a $500,000 watch.
She didn't write any reports. But what she told you is she wrote her information in the affidavit.
If you did not document it, it did not happen. Hold them accountable.
But if you focus on the fact that they're reading writing reports, you won't miss it right in front of you. Mr. Wines talk about length of time, you talk about it. Knowledge and co-conspiracy.
That did check
One
for
point in time, Mr. Shar said, Mr. Meyer, who stabbed Lucci, he doesn't know Mr. Kendrick or Mr. Stillwell. Maybe not. But he knows Khalid Adams, who's the one who has set up stabbing Lucci. Khalid Adams knows those two. Well, knows Mr. Stillwell. Khalid Adams knows. And so, some way, somehow, though, Mr. Stillwell knew on February 9th that Lucci got stabbed.
I've never heard of hybrid gangs either. Ever in my life. Ever until this trial.
To the world. So this idea that just because Mr. Meyer doesn't know him specifically does not mean that they're not guilty of the crime when they commit it.
I've heard of gangs splintering off and creating new groups, new gangs. Never hybrid gangs.
The things that they talked about, there were examples of it. They talked
EDs and BDs, nope.
Bloods and Crips.
Bloods and Crips, nope. Folks and BDs, nope.
Some of them, Mr. Williams was a blood. You saw me talk about sex money murder.
Never heard of it.
Hanging out together. You see them committing crimes together. Mr. Kendrick and Mr. Arnold in a car with guns.
Junior boys, folks, blood.
We can infer those
Never heard of it.
That's what they talk about when it says a hybrid gang. They talk about the music, and we're gonna get to the music in a minute. They talk about the fact that gang members use their music in order to brag, promote what they've done in the gang. And we'll see examples of that in a moment. We talked about your duty earlier today, but again, just to be reminded, you're supposed to be a fair and impartial juror, honestly seeking the truth. You are not to seek doubt. So when you go in the back, you're supposed to say to yourself, what happened on January 10th? What is the truth about that? And is there evidence towards the truth? That is what you're here for. Seek the truth, you follow the law, and you deliberate. Now, I want to tell you this. If you go to the back to deliberate, and one of your numbers says, I'm not deliberating, I'm going to the bathroom, I'm not doing any of this, you need to bring that to the deputy's attention so they can bring it to the court's attention. Because you have a duty to deliberate. A duty to sit down, evaluate the facts.
If you don't want to deliberate, you are breaking the law. And you need to be turned in. Because you have not made a fair and impartial decision. I listened to y'all talk, so I may not have to go through evidence again.
50 and 51 and 57.
Whatever.
But you know one thing that's different? We don't do criminal gang activity. And the court's going to define what that is. See, we're not here because people wear the same colors. They can wear all the greens they want. They wear all the snakes they want.
Y'all may be committing criminal gang activity because y'all done lied on people, y'all done put people in jail, y'all done threatened people, y'all done falsified evidence. That's kind of criminal.
Not being a member of the gang.
You just don't have a DA that'll charge you.
So
but it's quite criminal.
On the left-hand side of the charges for Mr. Kendrick,
you keep people in a nasty ass jail.
So Mr. Kendrick is
you prevent them from talking to their lawyers or their family members. Lock them up on the medical floor. It's quite criminal.
So in order to prove this, we have to show that the defendant possessed with the intent to distribute any amount of marijuana. Marijuana includes all parts of the plant. What it does not include is the hemp products and all those other. We have to show that he possessed it and has possessed the marijuana or firearm. We'll talk about the firearm in a moment. Possession must be actual, constructive, sole, or joint. So we're going to say that it's not actual possession. No one caught him with the marijuana in. We're going to talk about constructive possession. At the time of the alleged offense, he did not have direct physical control over the marijuana or firearm, but then knowingly had both the ability and the intention to exercise control over the marijuana. We know he doesn't have sole possession or focus on joint possession. The defendant share possession of marijuana or firearm with at least one other person. What evidence do we have? I know Mr. Watson didn't have any evidence. We do. Pictures are evidence. That's direct evidence, like we talked about earlier. This is the side of the home of
this firearm was found in this house. His weed was found on the table because he was in the house at some point. He's guilty. He talked so much about him running. You know how dirty Fulton County is? I would have ran too.
And those are the 2 guns that were found inside that area. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you heard the testimony.
He can't outrun a drone though. Clearly. Or a helicopter. They both was there.
I submit to you that they had the opportunity to put stuff away, to hide stuff, because they didn't just come in immediately.
But there was guns found in the middle of the floor. It was found in the table. On the table. But they had the opportunity to put stuff away and hide it.
So the state must prove that the defendant had
and they didn't.
On his person or within arm's reach.
They could have flushed all the weed. They could have poured out all the codeine, but they didn't.
Kendrick is the possession of marijuana with intent to distribute. So how do we show this?
They could have flushed the toilet, Flushed all the
That is
marijuana,
Mr.
flushed all the
Drake,
codeine, and
the
they would have
vehicle.
found nothing
We
but
know that
empty
his original
bottles,
shot
but
was
they
a
did
40
not.
caliber, a 40
I'm
caliber
sure there was
gun,
enough
possibly on
bathrooms
his
in that
body. We're
house
going
to
to talk
do
about
that.
the Glock in a moment. So you can infer, although we do not have the gun, that Mr. Stillwell possessed the gun that shot and killed Mr. Drake because he's dead and because we have the bullet. You can infer that. That's that circumstantial evidence. Your direct evidence is someone is deceased. You have bullets. We know those bullets come from a firearm. So the only way you can infer that the shooter, Mr. Stillwell, possessed a firearm. Mr. Kendrick, again, you had the firearms inside of the house at the time when the house was raided. There were two found inside of that cabinet. There was the one that's found on this counter.
Yak was there for barely 48 hours. Yeah, he put a pistol in a cabinet.
You have to show for Mr. Stillwell, he has two counts. And interestingly enough, I was listening, Mr. Starr never talked about count 64. So, but we're going to talk about count 64. But count 52 is that he's a convicted felon and he had a firearm when he murdered Chanel Drinks. And in count 64, which is when he was apprehended, the gun that was found in the middle of the road, that we charged him with that weapon as well. And then again, Mr. Kendrick, that there were guns and drugs at Allison Drive on midnight. And let me also say that in the indictment, possession of a firearm by convicted felon is going to be a lesser included of what is charged. What is charged is a different charge, but possession of a firearm by convicted felon is a lesser charge, and the court is going to instruct you, and you can find both of them guilty so long as you believe that both of them possess a firearm and they have been previously convicted of a felony. What do you have in evidence? You have State's Exhibit 60G and State's Exhibit 30Q. Both of those are the indictments of Mr. Stillwell, which he was charged with and convicted of a felony. So that is the felony that we're saying he should not have been in violation of, or he should not have possessed a firearm. As I just discussed, because he's a convicted felon, he should never have a firearm when he murdered Chanel Drinks. For count 64, what do we have? Remember, this is on March 17th, after they fled from the Chick-fil-A. And remember, Trooper Campbell came in and said that he found the gun in the middle of the road. You saw the dash cam video when he kind of turned around and found his gun. Then we brought in Mr. Stillwell's former girlfriend at the time, Taisha Alexander. She said that she had bought the gun. That was her gun. That gun came back to Ms. Alexander. We were able to compare the serial numbers of both the gun that was collected and the receipt from Arrowhead Pond. And further, we played these wiretap calls.
Hello? Yeah. I don't know. Trying to call everybody. You can play on IP tape to the house. Yeah. Why can't he IP tape if he's a really legit? Yeah. He got my legit.
Yeah, but the criminals in possession of a firearm can't do anything to, break the law, but the state gets to. That's unfair.
Usually they'll call, like, I got my gun. Yeah. They'll call me like, come get your gun, but they didn't call me. So I don't know if he got my gun, they don't know.
So she's a witness that they brought. They got on the stand and lied and said she didn't give him permission to have that gun, nor did she give him. He was driving. He didn't throw it out the passenger side if he was driving. Clearly, somebody else did.
Again, because he's a convicted felon, he should not have been in construction.
Yeah, those really look like they were hiding those weapons. They really look like they were being hidden.
Based upon what we have shown you, they are guilty of right now count 1, count 50, 51, 52, 54, 57, 58, 61, 63, and 64. So let's spend some time on the murders. Because that is what we need to talk about. So for the murders, Mr. Stillwell is charged with count 2 and count 49, which is Donovan Thomas Jr. and Chanel Drinks. And Mr. Kendrick is charged solely with count 2, which is the death of Donovan Thomas Jr. You're going to hear the court read you an instruction about intent. Intent is every essential element of any crime must be proved by the state beyond a reasonable doubt. It may be shown in many ways, provided that you, the jury, believe that it existed from the proven facts before you. It may be inferred from the proven circumstances or by acts and conduct, or it may be in your discretion inferred when it is a natural and necessary consequence of it. Intent does not mean the intention to violate the law or to violate a criminal statute, but it is simply the intention to commit the act.
I don't doubt it. Hilton likes to hear herself talk.
So what is it? What are the elements that we have to prove for murder? That Mr. Stillwell and Mr. Kendrick caused the death of another person.
Hilton, Atkins, Shard, Steele all like to hear themselves talk.
What is malice? It is not necessarily ill will.
I mean, that's just me giving it out even.
You may find malice when the circumstances show the defendant acted with deliberate intention to unlawfully take the life of another person, or where there does not appear to be significant provocation and all the circumstances show an abandoned and malignant heart. You often hear about premeditation. Some of you like watching these crime shows. The state does not have to prove premeditation to prove murder. So we don't just sit and say you planned it out and you all mapped it out and that you knew you were going to kill Donovan Thomas or Chanel Drinks right at that moment. If the killing is done with malice, it is murder, regardless of how briefly the malicious intent existed. So when Diamante Kendrick rode by the barbershop and they saw Donovan Thomas sitting outside with his friends, and I'm going to submit to you, they started calling and say, yo.
There's no proof he even rode past the barbershop.
That's enough. Or with Chanel Drinks, when Shannon and Garlington are sitting in the car and they're backed in and they see Mr. Drinks pull in and they realize, oh snap, that's the dude from the Shell Cal post. And they see him walking up and they decide at that moment they're going to get him because they're going to get revenge, they're going to get back. That's enough right there. Doesn't have to be days planned. Within moments, that is enough. Where Drinks and Demikian are in the car.
Oh, what did it do?
Because remember, from here, y'all, you see the Audi lights. The Audi's here. He just walks right here. In the same sneakers from the picture. And coat and jacket.
It's just like, oh wow, it skipped. I don't even know what that. Ooh wee. Okay.
Telling y'all what he did.
Hold on.
And they don't got no reason to lie on him. For what?
Okay.
Or has been acquitted. Mr. Boyer's dates for another day. We're not going to talk about Mr. Boyer today. Today, we're going to talk about Mr. Stillwell and Mr. Kim. You can look at presence, companionship, and conduct before and after the commission of the alleged offense. And those things may be considered by you in determining whether or not the circumstances, if any, give rise to an inference or the existence of a conspiracy. So
If
what does that
she's
mean?
his girlfriend.
You can look at what they did before, what they did during, and what they did after. And for both of those murders, we're going to talk about conduct before, conduct during, and conduct after.
Because they were just in the vicinity of the weapons. That's why they get to charge them. I mean, and that's how they like to work. If you're in the vicinity of a weapon.
He's from
Or is
Atlanta.
she still his girlfriend? You know, I believe she is still his
He was
girlfriend.
in a gang, but he had started to kind of try to get into the music business.
Oh,
He had
so he
started
gets to
doing
try to
it
get out of the
by
gang, but
one,
nobody
he
else
had a
can.
relationship with Rich Homie Quan. Two, he had just put Lucci on, YFN Lucci. So he was trying to kind of turn Denmark and do something different.
Oh wow. No,
So he
you're
was
not
also
going
hit
with
by
this
violent
narrative.
felonies.
No,
So
you are not.
that he was gunned down.
When 2
Then he
days
went to
before he
barbershop.
goes swoop and put Woody on the
His
plate,
haircut,
no, you're not
his
going with this
brother was
narrative.
there. And what were they getting ready to do? Meet with their daddy to go watch the football game.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
the Ravens and the Patriots. Don't quote if I'm wrong, but I think it was the Ravens and the Patriots. And that's what he was getting ready to do. Spend time with his father. You know that he has a biological brother, but he also has a brother, which Kelvin Watts, who's super close to him, that they are brothers, but not biologically, but they share a brother, so they call themselves brothers. He said he was trying to get in the music industry. That's him with YFN Lucci. That's him with Rich Homie Quan. And so much so that after his
What about
death,
DK trying to get into the music
Lucci
industry? What
had a
about
whole album
Shannon trying to get into
dedicated
the
to
music
him,
industry?
Long Live Nut. And we know
What about
that
Obama
Nut
trying to get into
was
the music
his.
industry? What about them? Does that not count?
Now let's go over some timelines because I think oftentimes we focus just on the murder, but there's some things that led up to that day that is very important for you to consider as you continue to look. So we know September 2014, Rich Homie Quan's father's barbershop shooting.
Yep, Woody did it.
We're going to talk about Mr. Copeland. Told you on the stand here that him and Threat were responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
YSL members responsible for shooting up the shop of a YFN gang. Or shoot the father of a is gang associate.
No, Woody.
Then, if you can recall,
Not YSL,
in all
Woody.
the different interviews, majority of them, Mr. Copeland talked about this shooting at the Lakewood gambling house. He talked about it in most every interview when he kept on telling them about the history of him and Kelvin. And he talked about the fact that Kelvin had shot up the gambling house and shot up Doug's car. Then he talks about, in multiple interviews, of meeting at Cascade Skating.
That we don't even
It
know
was
if it
planned
really
to
happened or
start with
not.
Kel wanted Copeland to call Thug so they can maybe squash whatever issue that they had. And that when Thug, Mr. Williams, got on the phone, he asked Kelvin, "Are you gonna pay for my car window?" Kelvin said no. They got into it, and it kept on going. You heard about the January 6th fight at Club Crucial, in which Copeland was jumped at the club. And then upon leaving the club, there was a fight with Bloody J, that some YSL members jumped on Bloody J. And that Kendrick and Arnold, they were arrested when they left the club. And that's going to be important because when we talk about phone records, why we don't have some phone records from Mr. Kendrick. Then we had the January 8th shooting at TIG Studio, where Rich Homie Quan's purple truck was shot up. There was some alluding to the fact that Copeland did that shooting. I think Quindarius Zachary may have said in his interview that Copeland did that shooting. Then there was that blood meeting the night before the murder. Now, I know that Mr. Sharp played for you the clip in which Copeland says that the blood meeting was about him, but remember the blood meeting was also about Mr. Williams.
No, it wasn't.
That the blood meeting just wasn't about him, but it was about him, Copeland, and Mr. Williams.
No, it wasn't. That's never what he says, ever in that interview. He says me. You guys
Then on
say
January
William.
10th, you have the death or the murder of Mr. Donovan Thomas at 330 McDaniel Street. Then you have the retaliatory shootings begin immediately. See, the streets knew what it took the state and the government a long time to figure out. They went directly to who they thought killed Donovan Thomas. They immediately started shooting at Jeffrey Williams' family's house and Kenneth Copeland's family's house because they thought that both of them were in on it. Also, in the late morning hours, early on January 11th, Kenneth Copeland meets with the Atlanta Police Department and many of the YSL members, they flee to Miami. You have more retaliatory shootings. Then in April, between April and May of 2015, you have the incident at the Dunbar Center where Copeland is found with that gun. They don't arrest him then. He calls Gaither. Gaither speaks to him. They let him go. But once they did more investigation, they got the video surveillance from the Dunbar Center. They arrest him on June 10th. And then that's when he does the 9-hour interview that we'll discuss. In August of 2015 was Quindarius Zachary's interview. In September 2015, Shannon becomes the target of 2 shootings, one at the Green Store, the other one with Miss Tierra Jones. In October 2015, arrest warrants are taken out for Garlington, Copeland, Sledge, and Stillwell. In November 2015, there was a preliminary hearing. The case was dismissed against Sledge. In 2016, the case was dismissed against Garlington and Copeland, and Stillwell received a bond. Between 2016 and 2018, there was some additional investigation and follow-up, and the indictment came in 2022. We're going to talk more about these dates, but I want to give everyone a general timeline over there. As Mr. Atkins
Yeah,
talked
she
about
just
earlier,
proved they
you
dirty
can
and
determine the
nasty.
credibility of the witnesses.
The state is
I
dirty
can't
and
remember if
nasty.
Mr. Shard or Mr. Watson said it, but they are absolutely right. We don't choose our witnesses.
Yes, you
Our
do.
witnesses and our victims are chosen by the crimes that are committed. So when you do your gang murder and you brag to your gang member friends that you murdered someone, then the person I have to bring in here to tell you what happened is the gang member friend. And the gang member friend isn't going to want to tell you in front of them what they told the police. So that's why I had to fight. Ms. Love got to fight. We got to argue with them back and forth because now they have to come in here and confront the people that they snitched on in front of them. So, and they know that. They know that none of these witnesses want to come in here and say what they told police. And they're begging on you to say, I don't know. I mean, he did swore an oath in court and said that he told the God's honest truth. Let's come and tell them God's honest truth in this courtroom. maybe some of the stuff he told was truthful. Here and there, like he said, he's doing a little bit of truth sometimes. That's what he said, right? So he did that a little bit, and we'll talk about that in a moment. What's going to be important are prior statements. It is important because
But they picked and chose which statements that they felt like Copeland was telling the truth on.
And this may be affected by you comparing and contrasting the testimony to statements or testimony of that same witness before trial starts. You, the jury, can decide whether there's a reasonable explanation for any inconsistency in a witness's pretrial statements or testimony when compared to that same trial testimony.
Yes, there's always reasonable inconsistencies, like they're lying.
To decide
You say he lying, but he just lying now. The state say, the defense say he lying. He lying now and then.
Let's take some time, all right? January 11th. This is hours after the murder.
Woody.
His girlfriend's house just got shot up, and they called him. Thorpe calls the girlfriend to kind of check in on, see what's happening with their shooting, and they put Copeland on the phone. See, on January 11th, when he walked inside, he real strong YSL, right? He's not trying to give up his friends. He want to let the police know, I didn't murder. Let me tell you something. I didn't murder Donovan Thomas. I'm going to tell you, I was at my girlfriend's house. I'm going to tell you, I went to the green stove. I went to McDonald's. He's not going to give you too much information because here, he's trying to still protect his friends. That's just common sense.
Oh, is
The
it?
police don't really know what's going
Nothing
on
about
yet.
this case is
So when
common
he first
sense.
goes in, he's trying to protect his friends. But then we get January 28th. So if y'all remember, y'all, this is after he gets out the shootout on the highway. See, this is after he came from the little pool party and he on his way home and they shoot at him at the highway. And remember, in this interview, he talks about, I believe, Shannon being upset with him because he didn't want to shoot back. So here, he's trying to tell them everything that YFN people are doing to him, but he's still not trying to give up his friends. They're his friends. But he's a little frustrated because everyone's blaming him for murdering Donovan Thomas, and everyone's shooting back at him, shooting him, and he didn't do it. Then we get February 20th. Now this was the worst one because that's when he's trying to come out the house to take his baby to the hospital, and they come down the street shooting at him. So now he's like, they are shooting at me, they shooting at my baby and my girl.
Look, I got you.
Look, this is too much.
It's not mine.
And he tells them about what happened. Again, this is the interview where he really didn't want to give up who shot him. He knew who did it.
Yeah.
But see, that gang street code is he still didn't want to give up the person who shot at him and his baby. So that's when Kurt was like, you're not going to tell me you just shot at you.
No yelling, no hitting.
Then the next day was February 21st. Violation of probation.
Oh.
He was upset because they arrested him for violation of probation.
Big hurts.
And Gaither talks to him, one, about the shooting that had happened, and trying to get more information about the murder, trying to figure out what is going on. Because by this time, and ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to go through that whole litany, we're going to call it Operation Planner Shooting, but you heard everything that were happening.
Mama's on live doing yeah.
And they're trying to get a grasp. I'm
going to turn this TV off.
No.
And then we get to the 9 hours.
You want to watch your cartoon?
So what happened in February and June? A lot. We got some happenings on June. Remember, Mr. Copeland went to jail for that violation of probation. He came out. He went to Henry County for a little while. And then on June 10th, he gets arrested for the gun that he had at the Dunbar Center.
Thank you.
And what's going on here?
Nah.
Copeland.
Nah. Nah.
His family getting shot at
right now. Okay.
Homes getting shot up.
I believe.
Remember Kenneth Purse or Kenny Boo's house? His sister-in-law, his sister's father's and Shannon and Mr. Williams not talking to him. Remember Shannon, and he thought Mr. Williams was trying to kill him. That's everything thing he talks about in this 9-hour interview. And let me say this. If some reason y'all want to watch all these interviews again, y'all can. I just gotta let them know. I don't know if you want to sit there watching 9-hour interview again, but if you wanted to, you can. But in this interview, he is at the place where enough is enough for him. And I'm going to tell you about Mr. Copeland. I'm going to tell you about Quindarius Avery. They are self-preservationists. What do I mean by that? They're going to not talk about what they've done because they don't want to go to jail. But it's telling on them.
He's not at a
gonna
place
get me out of
where
jail.
enough. He's at a
I'm
place
gonna
to
tell
talk,
you
finesse
what's
myself out of
next.
some situations.
Because I don't want to go to jail. He's absolutely right. He did not want to go to jail. But he's not going to lie to the police about what they did. He's going to minimize what he's done. And that's what he did in this interview for 9 hours. He minimized his involvement in some things, but he told everything that they did.
No,
and if you don't believe what he told the police, well, let's listen to what he told his girlfriend on the jail call.
I know they didn't heard some of his interviews after the fact.
Yeah. No.
Kristen, oh my God, I'm so frustrated with them. It's like we got to hammer home the lie to the last freaking moment. It's a lie. No matter how many times you say it or which way you try to portray it, it's still a fucking lie. He was all about self-preservation, but he was lying on the others to do that. What do you say? Take the blame off of me and put it on everybody else but me. Oh God, I
And
just
Mike
like you so
Sprinkle
much.
was able to verify what he told them. Let's listen to this June 16th, 2015 call.
How many times I gotta hear the same damn calls? Sorry, I apologize. You just gonna keep hammering home the lie of the calls?
Now, let's talk about his trial testimony. You know, I actually do like rap music, kind of very popularly. And there is an artist, Young Jeezy. He has a song called Put On. And I'm gonna tell you what Copeland and Zachary did while they testified here, was they put on for YSL. They came in here acting all types of foolishness.
They
And
put on
that's
for
because
YSL.
they wanted to show their gang member friends, look, I'm still part of the conspiracy. I know I snitched on y'all back in 2015, but I'm gonna try to help y'all out as best as I can. And that's what they did.
Look at him. Love, yeah. That's what they did. What about what you did when you was lying about a damn phone number?
They've been friends for a long time.
What about what you did when you was lying about the reason Donovan Thomas died?
They laid together.
Didn't you say it was because they needed Rich Homie Quan?
That Demekion,
You
when
don't
he got
even
to
know
that
why
car, his
that man
doctor
died.
said, yo,
Because it
let me
doesn't
tell
make
y'all what
sense
this
that
is.
he was beefing with Woody and that's why he
Let me
died.
tell you what our homie, our boy for the last couple of years just did. They just killed Nut because the killer wasn't around. He was asleep at his girlfriend's house. So he missed the action.
No, he
So
wasn't.
you don't think when Demekion get in the car,
No, he wasn't.
he's not going to say, yo, let me tell you what Sharon just did, Joe. They friends.
That's the lie that you want to be the truth.
And they want you to believe that
You won't even acknowledge that could
did
be a
not
lie.
tell Coco what happened.
They won't even
Moments after
acknowledge
it happened,
that could potentially be a lie.
that don't even make sense. And we gonna ask you your
Because it has to be true.
This is them. And these weren't all taken in 2015 because some of these are older pictures. They look super young. This is how long they've been friends. Now, it was interesting when Mr. Shard asked, why we show you this video from 2009? Let me tell you why. Because Quindarius been around for a long time. Quindarius been around since 2009. So Quindarius knows about what's happening. See, we didn't just bring you stuff. I know some days you're like, why does the state bring me a video from 2009? It's hard. It's to show the evolution of their relationships. Williams much longer than Copeland's ever been in the picture. Copeland started coming around in 2014. Mr. Zachary's loyalty is a little bit different. He's been around since 2009. So when Zachary tells you in his interview, Doug ain't know nothing about that murder. Yes, he did. But his loyalty is a little different because he's been around. 2012. That's Mr. Zachary. You want to know why we showed you the video of them outside in the apartment complex? To show their association. Again, Zachary been around again for a long time. He real better than it. He rocked through YSL. So he has a motive to lie for Jeffrey Williams that Kenneth doesn't have as much of. In his interview, see, when Quindarius interviewed, he asked to come and speak to the police. And you're going to watch his interview because what both of them do in their interviews, both Copeland and Quindarius, and this is how you know they were telling the truth, they would correct the officers. If the officer repeated something that was wrong, they would say, no, I didn't say it like that. I said it like this. That's what they would do. That's how you know that what they were trying to tell them, they were trying to be as truthful as they could so that they would get it right. They being the police would get it right. And again, same thing. He come in here talking about he wouldn't take one of the investigators out, all types of nonsense. But again, putting on for YSL. And again, he's been around. They friends. They friends. And why would they lie on their friends? If they knew to make up stuff and make up lies, why would you lie and say your friends committed a murder? That doesn't make sense. Why lie? You could just say anybody committed the murder. If you were just lying, you don't want anybody to verify what you were saying, you could have said anybody committed the murder. But that's not what they did.
Because you would believe them if they were friends. If the friend is telling on the other friend and taking it off of them, you would believe that. Of course you would. You have no reason not to. It's working right now.
He then turned his file over.
It's called cognitive psychology.
Then we have both Dennis and Gaither.
Believe it or not, a lot of street dudes know it. If I keep repeating the same lie over and over again, it becomes the truth.
And then you have Kenneth Copeland.
You thought Woody was playing when he said, I lie to myself on a regular, everyday basis, just so I can repeat the lie over and over again.
And said, okay.
A lot of narcissists do it.
And it was something that Mr. Shard said, which I found interesting. Mr. Shard said that Nicholas Robinson, aka Spencer Wright, is an example of individuals who say anything to get out of jail. But the difference between Nicholas Robinson and Quindarius and Kenneth Copeland is that Mr. Sprinkle couldn't verify what Nicholas Robinson said, but he was able to verify what Quindarius and what Kenneth Copeland said. So did Mike Sprinkle corroborate Kenneth Copeland and Quindarius' statement? Emphatically, yes. So let's talk about the activity before the murder. And some of these are the videos, but there was no dispute about the Lakewood shooting and Club Crucial. And what you have in both of those interviews is that both Copeland and Zachary actually sat and talked about those shootings. I'm not going to play the video for you just in an abundance of time, but we know that those 2 things at least were not disputed. So let's talk about the day of and the days after the murder. So what did Copeland tell you about that one?
I just want to know who goes to unalive somebody and involves 20 people in the crime so that everybody knows everything that's going on. Who does
I
that?
know that's kind of small, but you'll have the phone records in there. That between 6:37 and 7:26, Copeland's phone was in the area of his girlfriend's house, right? That's QR's Copeland's girlfriend's house. His phone was pinging in that area, and that's between 6:37 and 7:26. If you can recall, the 911 call for the murder came in at 7:22. At 7:26, he is still at his girlfriend's house after the murder. So this notion, when they say, well, Kenneth Copeland did it, I know somebody who could have done it. Well, what Kenneth Copeland?
One of his 2 phones was there. One of the 2 phones was there.
Kenneth Copeland at his girlfriend's house at 7:26. Then he says he wants to bring to her.
Yep. She said she was talking to him like somebody he grew up with, like somebody he knows. And then all of a sudden she get in there in front of her coworkers and now she want to talk to him different. And he didn't appreciate that. She was confusing him when she got in there with her coworkers. Clearly, you change depending on who's in your presence.
And then he traveled.
But it's good for the goose, good for the gander.
And here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, about cooperation and phone records. He doesn't know we're gonna pull the phone records later. He doesn't know that Mike Sprinkle in 2016, like almost 8 months after this, that we're gonna pull the phone records to see whether or not what he's saying is true. I know he came in here sometimes. I got 2 phones, I had 2 phones, all this other stuff. He didn't have 2 phones. If he had 2 phones, the main phone is the phone that he's calling his girlfriend on. You can look at the records. The records will show who he's talking to. He's talking to his brother and his girlfriend on the phone he's talking about. Cooperation. I'm not gonna play it, but he says you just heard him say he was at the McDonald's.
She pissed me off because she's lying now. Still proof that he had 2 phones. It's a different phone that he had that was in the name of someone else. But it was a phone that he was using. And she knew that because it was a phone that he was using to communicate with Jeffrey Williams. So he did have a second phone.
So that's them both talking about them going down to Miami. Now, in court, that's probably one thing that they talked about. They all went to Miami. But they all said they went for this concert in Miami. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we showed you all the flyers, and there's no flyer in Miami for January 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th. The only flyer in Miami, in Florida, was the Tampa Bay. So the question becomes, why are y'all going to Florida right after Donald Thomas's murder to flee? Because YSL knew what they did, and they had to get up out of Dodge. And they went down to Birdman's house to lay low until things maybe some of the dust started to settle. And we had the phone records to show you all that they all went to Miami, all the different phone records in Miami after the murder, and the time that they all went after the murder. Now, we talked about the Grand Infinity. They both discussed, well, Copeland said it was Thug that rented the Grand Infinity. Zachary, I told you the voice is a little bit different. He didn't want to say Thug rented the Grand Infinity. He talked about it was me. But we both know that this Grand Infinity was rented. And I won't play the video for you, but there are the 2 clips. If you want to play later, you can play. And how was that corroborated? Mr. Sprinkle found a Hertz rental car record in order to corroborate is what Mr. Copeland said accurate? Was it a rented gray vehicle? Almost a year later, he finds the rental car.
But how many times did Copeland lie about the rental car? To your
He
face.
literally took everything that Ken Copeland said and said, "Can I corroborate this?" And that's
The
what
day after, the day of
now let's talk about
murder,
what they both said.
he lied
Remember,
to your
Copeland is in
face.
June, Zachary
Yes,
is in August.
dude said, "You know anything about a Finny?" Is it a truck? Oh, a car? Oh no. But on June 15th, you going to prison. All of a sudden, he tell the truth, and that's the only truth it could be.
Right? That's Copeland in June. Here's Zachary in August. What you waiting for 30 minutes at the gas station for? Who waits at the gas station at home? You had to meet Bushi at that gas station? What did Reginald Hendricks tell you? Why cell folks don't hang around out there? They get their gas, they get on. If they even get gas over there, because that's not their territory. Their territory is Cleveland Avenue. So why are you sitting there for, I don't do math, what was it, almost 40 minutes? But they want you to believe
Nah, that's 31 minutes.
Then that's when Infinity pulls up. And on the video, yes.
That's 31 minutes.
Now I know
6:44 to 7:15 is 31 minutes.
My client ain't on video. Well, we can't see him on
Not
video.
40 minutes, 31 minutes. Oh, jeez.
Then they both leave at the same time, and they both turn right on Northside Drive.
You can't go to no other gas station but your gas station. But YFN can go to Cleveland Avenue and go
Now,
to
this
the gas
video,
station.
we'll speed it up. And in fact,
Seriously.
from the still shots, you can see kind of the movement. And let me, I wish I can't hold it because it's right. You see where they came on? They came down and danced. Well, what's right about here? It's the barber shop. I know Mr. Wine shop is a block away. It's a block away. Literally, when you go out here, you look up the street, you see the barber shop. It's not a block away. It's yards away.
Look at love. She's like she in church. Look at yeah.
He's the one that
She's
alerts
not.
them. Kendrick. If Kendrick didn't tell them that he saw,
She's repeating the same thing that they tried to hammer home the last year.
he's the one who alerted them. That's why why he's just as guilty as the ones who shot.
Oh, love is proud.
This is them when we
Like a
set
proud mama
so
right
now
now.
it's
Look at her.
9:05.
Yeah.
That's Doo-Wop getting out. I submit to you, that's Doo-Wop getting out the car, smoking a cigarette. I submit probably trying to look see if he's still out, if Donnie's still outside, so they see how much time they had before Donnie go inside go get his haircut. And he was waiting. That's when Willie Bougie pulls up in that car.
So he couldn't have been sitting there waiting on this chick to get there. That's just not an option. He had to be sitting there waiting to plot a homicide.
And then
That's the only thing.
He gets out the car. Then you see Mr. Kendrick kind of waves to the infinity. Then he walks over to the infinity. I submit that's when they're gonna talk about.
He literally waved like, "What's up?"
What car? What guns in the car? How they gonna do it? Who gonna do what? He now gets back in the driver's seat. And we talk about where did they switch cars? I submit to you behind the gas station. They both made it right in the moment. I'm going to show you what's right behind the gas station where they could have easily switched cars.
But they did switch cars behind the gas
And
station.
remember, we talked about the time, so it's not 8:08. Remember, this time is off by a few moments. And that's them coming down the street and then shoot. Of course, you're going to see, I'm going to play this all this little reaction, what happens in the store. You got babies running. Bullets have no names. And they have the audacity to tell you that we're sitting here trying to charge people of color? No. You should not have to sit here on a Saturday trying to get your hair cut and have bullets coming inside of a barbershop. Bullets have no names. And there's babies in the front. But you're just spraying down the street for what? For your status in YSL? So you can show Mr. Williams that you big and bad? That's what this is about. And that's Donovan's brother. Outside. I submit he saw what happened, but you know what? He ain't gonna tell us. He ain't gonna talk to the police. That's what the gang culture is. So this is the Texaco. That's Northside Drive. And here are two streets. This one's a one-way street, but they don't follow the law, so I submit that they went up the one-way street. And it's another street. They didn't went up either. I submit they went up the one-way street because they didn't follow the law. So when they turn right, they switch cars behind here. They switch behind here. It takes no time to drive up the wrong way street, drive back there, and come back down to their street. That's where they switch the cars at. They both.
You ain't got no proof of that, though.
And this is where he talks about it. I'm not gonna play it for you, but that's what he said.
No, play it. Please play it. No, I'm not gonna play it because it didn't go along with her story or her theory.
After her, this is him between 636 and 719. You see the crime scene, he's stationary around the crime scene, right? There's a gap in time between 719 and 724. At 724, between 808, this is where Bradford's home is, right? From 731 all the way to 808. What's over here? Oak Drive. OG Bentley House. Where they said they got rid of the guns. Let me tell you what he's doing. He waiting for them to come back. You want to know how we know that Gap isn't in the car with him anymore? This call right here.
Using security. You can start the conversation now.
So, I live down, I was sitting there like this. Now, we're going to get there, security. Y'all good? Yeah. What it is? What's on short stuff? What are you doing? Going on? Yeah. Where you
You hear what he said? Where that guy at? We waiting for him to pull up. That's at 742. That's when, let's go back, y'all. That's when he waiting down here.
Hey, Fat Daddy.
At 742, which is one of the calls that's right here, Yak ain't with him. You want to know why? Because Yak with the other 3 murders. That's where Yak at. What evidence do we have? No, we don't have DNA. You want to know why? They got rid of the car. No, we don't have DNA. You want to know why? Because they got rid of the guns. All we have is what they told their co-conspirators. And that's what I had to bring to you. What I have are the phone records. What I have are the surveillance videos to corroborate what the co-conspirators said. Because I don't have those things. I wish I had them, but they got rid of it. That's Yak the night of. What'd he say? Maniac's back. That's what he said, right? Y'all know me in my Santana voice. You right? The maniac's back. He just drove the car that took somebody's life. For no reason. For no reason. That's just to show you, that's Divorce Bradford in that Pontiac. That's on that surveillance video. This is what they talk about the guns used to commit the murder.
Don't yell, Poppy.
We gonna lie. Why did I say Doo-Wop had a gun? Let's lie. We gonna lie big. Everybody had a gun. But he didn't do that. He said, nah, I don't think Doo-Wop had a gun. I don't think so, but I definitely know Yak was driving, because if we gonna lie, say Yak had a gun too. But he didn't do that. What are the shell cases? How he know it was a 7.62? That's what Donna was killed with. Those are the bullets that came out of Mr. Thomas. The shell casings that
Why
was found
wouldn't he know? Why wouldn't he know?
And 7.62s. How they know that?
Sammy Davis Jr. said he's seen Woody.
This is called corroboration. This is called verification. They don't know that they don't know what bullet was pulled out of Donovan Thompson's body at the autopsy. They don't know what shell casings the police picked up off the ground. But ironically, they know, it's not ironic, they know the type of gun that they use.
Not they. Woody. Woody knows. What's up, baby? If you want to sit down here with Mama, you can, but you want to quiet. Mommy don't lie. Yeah.
When he finished, he's at the airport.
You leaving me? Wrecking ball truck.
Yeah. That's how everything showed y'all, right? It's on overdrive. That's Bentley spot. And isn't it ironic that that's where the guns was kept in April when Dexter Montgomery, when they went shot at Dexter Montgomery, they got all the guns from Bentley spot. Bentley keep the guns. That's what happened here. When we talk about interrelatedness, this is the interrelatedness that we are talking about. The same location, you drop one gun off, you pick one gun up. That's what happened. That's what Walter Murphy, I'm not gonna play the clip, but that's what Walter Murphy told you back when he was interviewed in July about OG Bentley spot. You think that that's ironic that both Copeland and Zachary talk about the guns going? Oh, and the phone records corroborate that all the phones was at Bentley house right after the murder? All of those things are corroboration. That's evidence.
Oh, this is where it goes out again. Okay, I see. Hey, Papa, you gotta pipe down.
Almost 7 years later. So you think you got away with it? I keep a stick, ain't avoiding no smoke. A chopper. I just be a murder rat, pay my lawyer 30 for that. Me and my slimes are butter law. I know it's mumbling, but they said we don't work in court at all. And I wipe your nose, send your family's face, and just smile off. Some of these things he repeats in multiple times. What's this? This song, remember, these songs were on his phone. We found it in 2022. But remember, we said that they may have been created maybe 2020, sometime between 2020 and 2022, right? At this point, they real brazen because they don't think they're going to get held accountable for the murder. So they start saying stuff in their songs like, I just beat a homicide. Ha, 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 walk it off. I just left that boy on the curb. Well, where was Donovan Thomas found, y'all? On the curb. I'm a big lizard, big slime, big shots, riding down your block, hanging out the top. Oh, shoot. Didn't Reginald Hendricks say that somebody was shooting out of the top of the infinity? Yeah. See, now you start bragging on it because you think you beat it. So now you, like our experts told you, they start bragging about it. What we call it dry snitching. You telling on yourself. Because you don't think that the police are going to find your phone. That's why you threw it.
Look, Love is loving this.
She's
just smiling.
Because you didn't think
So
we were going to find it.
Look at my girl
This
go.
is called
She off the
confession.
leash.
This is a confession. Over a beat.
I don't like it either, baby. I don't like it either.
I don't give a fuck about a red light. I'm on go. I'm on green. I see an eye. I'm taking him down. Walk him down from a mile. The last homicide, I smile. How many times you gonna keep talking about the fact that you killed this man and you bragging about it? This is song number 3. I got it. And then I can send the whole gang to the heavenly house. Nice. You good with killing folks? Yeah. That's why you didn't kill Donovan. You didn't kill Chanel. Nice catch. Thank you. I ain't gonna play the song. Let's talk.
She's trying to piss me off.
So the timeline here, this is, and I'll tell you here, this is a direct result of retaliation from the state of Lemuche. So what do we have? February 9th, Rayshawn Bennett gets stabbed in the Fulton County Jail by Jada Myrick. February 22nd, Eppinger calls Antonio Sumlin to see if he could get paid for finishing what Myrick didn't do. Then you heard about that emergency bond paperwork that was filled out on March 3rd. Then sometime around early March, the media hears about the YFN Lucci stabbing. It gets picked up on media. On March 11th at 3 a.m., 2 YSL associates, Christian McMillan and Darius Ford, are murdered on I-75 and I-85. That same night, there's
a month later,
a YFN associate gets shot in the head. On March 12th, there's a shootout on Cleveland Avenue with Mika Garlington and the Ops. On March 12th, there's a 911 call shooting at 2830 Waters Road. March 14th, Shannon Stillo rents the Audi A5 and puts dark tints on all the windows. March 14th, 10 o'clock is the murder of Chanel Drakes. On March 16th, the shooting at Waters Road, where investigator Rita comes out. March 17th, there's a search of Waters Road where everything is taken out except for a few guns that they left behind. And then Stillwell and Nichols are arrested. Again, we talk about the state does not have to prove motive, but here, ladies and gentlemen, this is motive. Again, that's that same video with Quindarius, y'all. Christian McMillan's been around since 2009. This is Mr. Wynn's long friend, old friend, good friend. And he gets murdered by YFN associates. Oh, you got to pay for that. Here we have just different pictures of them, both Mr. Ford and Mr. McMillan, all with other YSL associates. You'll have these in evidence, ladies and gentlemen. That's unfortunately the car that they were driving in when they were tragically gunned down on March 11th. So here's where the motive comes in, y'all. Just like YSL brags about doing stuff, YFN does the same thing. It's tragic. These posts were despicable. That post crossing out that young girl's daddy and saying that, despicable. But that's the type of stuff that gangs do, right? To keep nudging each other. So that would make
Hilton was trying not to tap her hand when
you see how
phone was
heartbroken
playing.
YSL was for the death of Mr. McMillan and Mr. Ford. They were devastated. These are all different YSL members posting them because they were devastated. And that's where revenge kicks in. That is Mrs. Stillwell's post. I ain't gonna be the only one crying. Nope, you're right. The Drinks family crying. Because he had to make sure. And what's he say here? Just ref Mac, I got you, man. Crying emoji, broken heart, taped up heart, devil emoji. He was ready to go out hunting. I know that was in January, but that just goes to show you he already knew how to be on the prowl. He already knew how to go out hunting. And this is what Demekian say on the wiretap on about March 11th and March 12th. March 12th. You know what he on. He on looking for them folks who killed our boys. That's what he on.
Why you all playing around? Why did you just come grab it?
The reason why we took this picture, y'all, is if you remember from the video, we're going to look at the video in a moment. It was parked about right here in the alley. And we know that because you see him when he comes in. If you watch the videos, you see when he comes in. Remember that Mr. Drinks pulled up to this pump. No, this one. They had the best vantage point to see when Mr. Drinks came in, when he walked into the store, when he walked back out the store, and when he pulled off. They were scoping it out, verifying. I submit they in the car. Is that him? Oh, yo, I think he do got the same sneakers on. I think that's him, y'all. Scoping it out. Watch it. Let's watch the video.
This woman said, this heifer said,
now this is where Mr. Stillwater gets to the gas station.
She had on, I think them is the same shoes. You trifling heifer.
Now you see when Mr. Cornelius Nichols gets to the gas station. That's when Miles gets out the car. That's when Shannon walks in the car first. We know it's Shannon because of the March 16th. They're wearing the same clothing.
My brother visits me every week. And every week he said that there was something wrong. And that he was going to help me fight. I just wonder how
Of course, that's Kwame Davis Nichols when he walks inside the store. Car, I think saw what happened. Because he stops a little behind it, like, whoa. You had the person walking down the street. With the brake lights, y'all. No, he could not consciously say, let me go. But the unconscious movement, because he just was shot in his head, is what is happening. They, you gotta think about this, because this is what they didn't want to show you. Shannon went from 18 miles per hour to 90 miles per hour. See, Mr. Shar didn't want to talk to you about that. Yeah. He want to tell you about a car that turned around because he heard a gunshot. Because the man or woman walking down the street didn't hear a gunshot. That person walking, just chilling.
You don't know because you didn't stop that.
And turned around. Don't you think that the person walking down the street would be like, hold up, let me back up? It's a gunshot down there. No. Could it be that maybe the car that turned around saw the liquor store and said, shoot, I'm going to give me a drink. It's Saturday. Could it be they left something at the gas station? He wants you to believe the only reason why they turned around is that they heard gunshots. That doesn't make sense when someone is walking down the street. It don't make sense. Now let's talk about the car that was closest to them. You see what time the cars are going. Here are the three cars in a straight line. Do you see that straight line? It's a straight line. The three cars. Shannon's car is directly next to Mr. Drake's car. And that's going to be important when I show you these crime scenes. This other car that he wants to talk about, that he's, this is the one who killed, this is the person who shot. Oh, and we couldn't get LPR. What? Where was I going to get LPR from? Can't see no license plate. I don't know what type of car it is.
She said it was a white
car. Is never directly next to Mr. Drake. It is always behind. I submit they saw what happened. My mommy. And when they inched up, they looked over, like, oh, let me get up out of Dodge. As most other cars did, except for Mr. Cheeseboro. Mr. Cheeseboro's call did not come in until 10:27, because every other car did what that car did. They drove by it. That car actually waited at the red light. Versus Mr. Stillwell almost hitting traffic. So his notion that he stopped at the red light, if you didn't just shoot and kill somebody, why are you fleeing through traffic to get on the highway at 90 miles an hour? Use your common sense. Many of y'all, if y'all choose to talk to us at the end and you care what's the judge, list all the admonitions. Some of you may ask, how I get chosen? And we're gonna say, because you got common sense. Your common sense will tell you that when you go from 18 miles per hour to 90 miles per hour, when you see the person who you think killed your best friend, that you shot and killed him. That's just your common sense. Not some random car that pulls up behind and unfortunately may have witnessed a shooting and they don't want to be involved. Let's look at the car. The crime scene pictures take pictures for a reason. Here go the bullet holes. 1, 2, 3. See, Mr. Shaw didn't show you that. Because if you see the crime scene photos will show you that the bullet went through the door where Mr. Stillwell's car was. And we'll talk about the gunshot residue. Wouldn't make sense. There's no muzzle flash anywhere on the video. So this is nonsense. You don't see no muzzle flash. Mr. Drake's dead, though. So we know a gun was fired. Let's take his theory. You don't see the muzzle flash when the other car pulls up, do you? You don't. That theory makes no sense.
No,
you have to take all the evidence, not just FedEx, but everything that occurred. Like I told you, he went from literally, y'all, 18 miles all the way to 90. To 90. This is the intersection. This is 1 minute later. What you fleeing for 90 miles an hour? You ain't killed nobody. You was just chilling. And then you go to the studio and do what you do. You brag. Because remember, they all went to the studio. And what did he say? Pop my shit. I really got options. Poor little ops. Look how they just dropped it. Poor little ops. Look how they just dropped it. Those are his words. After he just executed a man at a light. He goes to the studio to go rap about it. This is why they think they above the law. This is what Demetrius said afterwards. Anyone, any information. Why you gotta do all that if you ain't killed nobody? Because of what happened on the 9th? Well, why is it so urgent on the 15th? Not when she had to shoot the people on the 9th. You gotta ask yourself the question. This became real important the day after he killed Shamil. This didn't become important after she done almost got robbed. else you have? You're searching for the crimes? They want to tell you, well, that's because his grandmama told him and his girlfriend told him. Well, they told him on March 14th about the shooting. He's not Googling on March 14th. He's Googling on the 17th.
Like he took that look, when he took them like that shit, like I know. Yeah, I'm like, this is nothing, bro. Like, they just doing that because they see that they got just like that shit. You know what I'm saying? Not one word. Yeah, the way they try to portray it, the way they say, man, don't say shit.
Don't talk. So that's the first part of the call. Then you hear them talking about Dolly White. Well, we all know Dolly, Doug's sister. And they're talking about getting payment for a lawyer. And then before that, or right after that, they're talking about Blizzy seeing the Mikion at the hotel in Cobb County. Remember, Blizzy is the ops, Carlos Barber. And so now the Mikion is updating Shannon about what's happening. Because remember, Shannon's been in custody now since March 17th. What's also important is that they're on this contraband phone. So remember early in the call, they're like, Shannon, I couldn't be on the other phone because they got my phone. So now I'm using somebody else's in jail contraband phone so that we can talk. So on this contraband phone, where they don't think anyone can hear them because they don't know it's a wiretap, they're like, hold on, Miles is tripping. Tell him don't talk to the police. He said the other boy tripping too. I submit he's talking about Carmadius Nichols. He said, I'm just trying to keep Buddy calm. Because remember, at this time, only 2 people are locked up. Shannon and Carmadius. Miles is not locked up, and we have not confirmed that DeMarco Boyer is the part of this. So he's trying to keep Quay down, trying to keep Miles from snitching, and that's what they're talking about. Then towards the end of the call, I don't know if Mr. Shaw tried to flip this, but he says, if they get my car, it's going to be clean, because there ain't going to be no GSR in it. Who says that? And let's see, did he go get the car clean? He did. These circles, and y'all gonna have these pictures in the back, are watermarks. You see, they ain't do a good job cleaning it, but it's watermarks dripping on the dashboard, over here, because he got the car clean. See, he thought maybe in his mind that the gunshot residue might be on the dashboard. It might be over here. Because he shot that gun out the window. He didn't shoot the gun in the car. Go look back at the trajectory. He could not have shot in the car. He had to shoot out the car because the bullet had to go through the car, through the window, into Chanel's dress. I submit he not inside the car like, ding, ding. That's not what he's doing. He gonna put his hand out the car and he gonna shoot. So when he's talking about they gonna wipe the car, it's gonna be clean, because that's what he think the gunshot residue gonna be. And what did Mr. Colvin tell you? He said, I dabbed, I took 2 dabs, I think he said he took about 8 or 16 dabs, but I didn't dab the entire headliner. He said there could be portions that had it, that's just not what I tested. You saw how big the headliner was, we pulled it out the bag for you. Is it possible? Reasonable that could have been on another piece of the headliner, yes? Or is it reasonable that all of the gunshot residue went out the car? Because remember what he said, it's gonna be a poop, but it's gonna go in the direction of the bullet. You might have some blowback, but not a whole lot, unless the shooting happened in the car. The shooting didn't happen in the car. Therefore, it's not gonna be a whole bunch of gunshot residue inside of the car. Remember, we asked him if there was gonna be a distinction between the two. He said there's gonna be way more gunshot residue if, say, the Mikion or someone in the car fired. But if the gun is outside the car window, it's gonna blow back a little, not a lot. It's gonna go towards the direction of the gun, of the bullet. But that would be towards the direction of Mr. Drinks. So any gunshot residue, he thought he wiped down. That's why he says that on a contraband call to his co-conspirator, who they both killed, Chanel. Don't worry about it, bro. If nothing else, when they got the car, don't worry about that gunshot residue. We cleaned that. That's why he wanted to extend the car rental. He extended the car rental on March 15th. He had to. He couldn't take the car back. By this time, I gotta get that thing cleaned down. We gotta do something with it. He probably gonna try to get rid of it. But we called him on the 17th. He ain't have enough time. Now I'm almost done, y'all. But I found it ironic how the first murder and the last murder in this indictment, how eerily similar they are. How ironic is it they both named Nut? They both happened near gas stations. They both using rental cars, one by Jeffrey Williams, one by Shannon. They both have multiple YSL defendants. They both travel after the murder. He talks about going, they flee to Miami. He talks about poker. He talks about going to Miami. They go into the studio, writing lyrics about it. They're both Chanel and Donovan are affiliated, associated with YFN. But they want you to believe this is just 2 totally unrelated cases. Oh, and Shannon is supposed to be the shooter in both of them? The one who's always on go. He said it himself, but Quindarius said it too. The one who wants to do the murder because he wants status in the game. But they want to tell you, don't believe any evidence that the state brought. Don't believe any of it. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask you not to do that. You know, Mr. Drinks, young man may try to find his way, maybe getting caught up in the wrong crowd. But on that day, he should have been able to go to his girlfriend's house. He should have been able to maybe decide that these aren't the friends he want to be with. But no, this is what they did to him. Left him at the light like this. And for what? Off a social media post? This is trash that they're doing in our community. Same thing with Donovan. Donovan was trying to turn his life around. Donovan was trying to get into the music business. Donovan was trying to leave that gang stuff alone. He up here drinking his glass of wine when you see the picture. But what did they do? Off of what? Because Donovan was at the barbershop joking, laughing outside. You see the surveillance video. And left him like this. All in the name of YSL. All in the name of the game that they want to tell you is a music group. It's music. This ain't music. This is not a song right here. Y'all. This is real life. Real dead bodies. Real dead people. Real shootings. This ain't no song over a beat. And they know when they brought him to it, with his flag tattoo, his Omerta tattoo, what they were doing. Ladies and gentlemen, they are guilty of every single count that they are both charged with. Mr. Atkins told you what this was about. Destruction of people. Destruction of the community that they live in. Deception. They want to deceive you by telling you that these people in here are just lying just a lie. They're trying to deceive you to tell you that this is all about rap music, rap business. It is not. This is about death.
Close
How many
arguments are
dead bodies
good.
at the hands of YSL? How many people shot at the hands of YSL? They are a gang.
But I know how
By every
manipulative
definition of
you
the
are.
word.
So I see you a little differently,
And
boo.
you want to talk about we're here just trying to get people of color? No, I'm trying to get gang members to stop committing violent acts in this community, in Fulton County, where each of their victims are people of color. The people that they destroyed, the people that they hurt, the people that they tarnished. Young boys. Rodalius Ryan could have had promise in life. But what is it? He out here murdering folks at the hands of YSL. Christian Eppinger at the hands of YSL. Go catch you a body. That's how you become slime. That's what he says in his song. Go catch you a body. I'll show you how to be slime. And that's what these little boys are doing. Catching a body to be slime. But they want to tell you that we got a vendetta on people of color? It's ridiculous. It's absurd. And intimidation.
But who gonna lock up Fonnie Willis?
These two defendants, Kendrick,
Who
are
gonna
guilty.
lock up Love?
They are guilty of murder. They are guilty of gang acts. They're guilty of conspiracy to violate RICO. And I ask of you, look at the evidence. Look at the law. I know it took some time. I know you probably want to go home and get your turkey. I know I get it. But I am asking you all to go back there, finish this marathon, finish this race, hold them accountable for their actions. When you apply the law with the facts and the evidence, there's only one just conclusion, that these defendants are guilty. Ladies and gentlemen, evil prevails when good men and women do nothing. I'm asking you to do something. I'm asking you to hold them accountable. I'm asking you to return a verdict of guilty. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your attention and your patience during this very long day. I know this was not an easy day for y'all. It's been a lot of hours here in the courtroom today, but y'all paid good attention and close attention, and everybody appreciates that. So let me give you some instructions before you return tomorrow. To maintain the integrity of this trial, remember that you must decide this case based only on the evidence submitted during the trial and the law as I will explain it to you. I have not yet given you this law. I will do that tomorrow. So it's not yet time to deliberate. Do not conduct any research on your own about this case or about any people or places mentioned during the trial, including online, through the internet, through any kind of traditional media or references, through social media, or by asking anyone anything about this case, and not from any other source, electronic or otherwise, should you get information about this case or about the law. Do not watch, read, or listen to any accounts of this trial that might appear in the news media, on social media, or through any other type of communication with anyone. In short, as I told you before, do not seek any information, including even hypothetical questions about this case, from any source outside the confines of this courtroom. And until the deliberations begin, which is not going to be until tomorrow, after you have heard the law that applies to this case, do not discuss this case with anyone or even amongst yourselves. Do not allow anybody to discuss it with you. Remember, you all have a late start tomorrow, so I'll see y'all at 11. We won't have a traditional long lunch break since we're starting late, so go ahead and eat something before you get here and come in ready to get back to business on the case. We'll see you at 11. Thank you.
All right, Missouri.
All right, and for all of y'all, because we all still have some business to wrap up and, dot all the i's and cross the t's on before we join the jury joins us again. Let's plan to be here at 9:30. All right, see everybody then. Thank you.
All right. And that was the end of closing arguments. Oh, did you say, oh, wait, was there something else that happened? Did I miss? I was about to close it down. Hold on. Let me see. Ouch. Let's see. Let's go back to my Atlanta news first. Oh, 11 hours. Oh, Jesus. Let's see if I can. Oh, no. They never come back. Okay. Oh, it is late. That was an 11-hour stream, Jesus. I'm happy you were able to spend it with me too, Kristen. I appreciate you so much. It was super duper duper late. I'm about to take my behind to bed too. I'm not gonna lie. Hilton closed just like a strong Black woman. She closed it out. That don't necessarily mean it's true. So I hate to shit on you. But we do a lot of hooping and hollering, especially when we're trying to make our point. And I'm not gonna say that your point ain't just as valid as the defense's point. A point is a point, and everybody's point deserves to be heard. So now we wait and we see what happens. Are they gonna listen to the hooping and hollering? Are they gonna go back there and review the facts and see what happens? All right, I appreciate everybody hanging with me. Thank you. I'm gonna go take me some medicine, eat me some soup, and go to bed because I feel like trash. But I wanted to do that. And I appreciate those that supported me and did it with me. Mwah. Love you all. Good night. And I will see you tomorrow.